We're rolling.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 67 of the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies podcast. We are sponsored by Fight Back CBD. Get 20% off your CBD order at fightbackcbd.com with code JJD. We're also sponsored by Black Belt Digital Marketing. Anything you need to build your business, web design, Google Ads, graphics, absolutely anything, they can help. Check them out at bbdigitalmarketing.com. Also want to give that same shout out that I gave last week about the GoFundMe for John Carlos, one of my old training partners. He found out he got cancer. Things are moving relatively quickly. He's on his fifth chemo treatment, actually as of yesterday. So I have the GoFundMe link in our IG. So if you click on that link tree will open, and right at the top I put his GoFundMe raise. Message me a snapshot of your GoFundMe receipt. Send it to our Instagram at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies, along with your full name, mailing address. And once we confirm, we'll send you out a podcast mug as a thank you. So just a little something to help him along. Last but not least, shout out to Hernandez Claims. George is a public adjuster who can help settle your commercial or residential insurance claim on your behalf. He will work with the insurance company to get you the most compensation possible, whether it's your business, your home, vandalism, he can help. So check them out at hernandezclaims.com. My name is Milton Campus. I'm a brown belt. I'm training out of South Florida. You can check me out on Instagram at Uncle Milty BJJ and at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies. Bo behind the camera today.
Yo.
Miguel.
Yo.
Oh, you're not here, Miguel.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, wait a minute. No, Miguel is just on the, I guess his family's like on the final throes of COVID, but Saturdays aren't always the best for him. So
he's just really tiny. You can't see him.
He's there. Yeah. Say hello.
We miniaturized him.
All right. So we're going to jump right in today. Joining us today, we have Caio Terra. I always don't know if when I say his name, should I say it like I'm a Brazilian or say it like I'm a American with a bad accent? So joining us today is Caio Terra, black belt, multiple time IBJJF champ, Kristina Barlaan. Welcome, Kristina.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
How do you say his name? I've heard you say it before, and you say it really nice.
I say Caio Terra.
Terra? Okay.
But I say it with an accent.
You say it with the accent. You better say it with the accent. Do you still get to train with him a lot?
Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I started with him when I was a white belt, and so starting up with him, then I left and then came back. So yeah, it's anytime training. It doesn't matter if back when I was a white belt, and even now it's I'm still a white belt. I know nothing.
Yeah. I get that feeling a lot. I get that feeling a lot lately, especially between the holidays and now I've got an injury. I've been out for a couple weeks and now I'm just like, oh God, am I remembering everything? I know it's like a bike. Yeah. I'm going to get right back on it, but
it's so lame. I don't say lame because it's cool, but it's dude, we're only 6 months apart. He's only 6 months older than me.
Yeah.
But he's been a black belt for as long as I've been training, and there's literally nothing I can do to him, right?
Yeah.
He always has these injuries, and he'll tuck his hand in, and he'll and it's because he's not trying to be mean, maybe he's not trying to pop me, but he can't use the hand, so he'll tuck it in, and then he'll somehow sweep me without using his hands and submit me. Only using, what is
okay.
Bullshit?
So I have a really good story about that, and I really wish Miguel was here. And this is when I knew, number one, me and Miguel were going to be friends. And he stepped it up as a kind of jiu-jitsu practitioner. So my co-host who's not here, we were training one day, we were about to roll, and he's like, oh, my arm hurts. And he's a white belt. I'm probably purple at that time. And he sticks his hand into his belt and he's like, come on. And I'm like, dude, you're hurt. Take the round. He's like, no, let's go. And I was like, all right. It wasn't really him trying to be tough. I'm going to kick your ass. It was just no, I want to train. He's fallen in love with jiu-jitsu as much as I have. And he just really wanted to train. So I tucked one hand into my belt and I said, okay, let's go. Then let's do this, just to kind of give him a fair. So ever since that moment, I always knew, I was just not only do I really respect this guy, but he really does love jiu-jitsu. And I think that happens to a lot of us. We just really fall in love, right?
And we find our people, you're yeah, we're going to be friends now. I'm adopting you.
Much. You over there, not so much, but you, yeah, right? We're going to be buds.
That's what I think what all upper belts do, right? Purple and up, we just find you're my white belt now.
Yeah. I'm trying to do that with my producer Bo, but Bo does not train. We've been trying to get him to train, but he does not train. I told him I'd love for him to be my first white belt.
I just do video. I just do video.
And his personality, he's totally got that chill Brazilian surfer, mentality. I don't think he realizes how much he's going to love it when he eventually get him on the mat.
Dude. Bo, we'll just stick a camera onto your head and then you can record while you're rolling.
Funny enough, we've talked about that. I'm like, let's get you on the mat and let's just document it right from the beginning, like the first day, that you're on the mat. I've got some mats in my garage at home, and we're going to be filming just like some little videos and TikTok stuff.
It's in the wrong context. That you should not say that to anybody. I got some mats in my garage and we can film some video.
I call it my torture chamber.
My pleasure room.
It's like great. What is that? The movie? 50 whatever shades of gray.
50 Shades of Grey.
And then he comes and picks me up in a van with no windows.
You can wear that special outfit you like.
Wow. I just got delay response.
Whoa.
He does look good in those real short shorts. When you cut the jean shorts really short,
we have to cut this off now.
Anyway,
I don't even know.
We call it his no-gi.
Like I'm trying to imagine the bow.
His no-gi outfit. Let's go back again. So how often do you get to train with Kaio? Are you a professor in one of his gyms still? Right. I think I've seen you out in front of one of the gyms doing one of your dances, which we'll talk about.
Yeah. So currently right now, like I'm actually making the move to Florida to like this panhandle area to northwestern tip, right? So I'm very far from you. Everyone's like, I'm going to be in Florida. I'm going to go visit you. I'm like, what part of Florida?
Yeah.
They're like Miami. I'm like, yeah, that's like 10 hours away, like a drive. But when I was in California, I trained at HQ with Professor. So I was seeing him pretty much every single day, unless he was out of town for a seminar or, training camp somewhere else or whatever business stuff. But
Gotcha.
Pretty much every single day with Professor on the mats. Would I get to train with him every single day? No, but was I getting instruction from him pretty much every single day? Yes.
Very
so
cool.
Like, even if he wasn't teaching like the night classes, like maybe he'll come in for comp class or vice versa. Won't come in for comp class and then he'll come in for night. He's pretty much on the mat all the time, as much as he can, even when he's injured. So,
where are you in the Panhandle? Whereabouts?
I'm in like the Pensacola area.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Apparently, this is called South Alabama.
Oh, so you know?
yeah. They're like, everybody here is like, we don't consider this Florida. It's just South Alabama. Like, noted.
So
noted.
how long have you been there now?
I got here in July.
Okay.
Originally, I came here last year, January, for like 3 months because everything was shut down in California. I couldn't work. And I'm like, they had me here for a seminar. Like, hey, we have an opening. You want to teach for 3 months? And I'm like, yeah, I can't work in California. And I'm like, it's hard to book seminars. So then they liked me and they're like, hey, stay longer. I'm like, I got to go back. I got to get my second degree. I got to do stuff with my professor and seminars, and like, okay, come back. And then, so I did. And then they're like, hey, what about staying? I'm like, that sounds like a good idea. I think I'm going to stay.
Yeah. Is this just like, is it strictly because of COVID? Do you feel like you'll go back, or is this a permanent move?
I think this is going to be a permanent move. I got a good setup here. I have a really good co-head professor teaching position, and it's a slower pace. Like when I'm training over there with Professor over at HQ, it's like at least 2 to 3 times a day, 5 days a week. Training on the mat, and then and it's all focused on me. And there's a lot of commuting. Like I don't know how it is in Miami, but in Northern California, it's like you're spending at least an hour, 2 hours in your car just commuting alone.
I've heard about
every single day.
What's that major highway that everybody complains about? I don't know California.
The 5, the 205.
There's like that one major highway that's always like a parking lot, or is that everything?
Okay, so yeah, it depends. So Southern California is way different from Northern California, right? So I'm not too sure what it is. I think it's like the 405 or whatever.
Okay.
But in the northern, like San Francisco area, it's like there's ways you can avoid it, but no matter what, it's either you're like 680 or 101 or 580 and then just that area in general is super congested because like that's like Silicon Valley, like all the techies have taken over and and so and it's a good deal here, like steady solid pay to do jiu-jitsu and only focus on jiu-jitsu, and then I'm gonna get to get my students to be better, which like is also super rewarding. Like
that's the satisfying part. That's the part. Yes,
dude. I traveled, I've competed, and that's all cool. I can say that I did it, right? But now I'm like, I'm getting old. I'm like an old lady. You know, I look young, but like
No.
jiu-jitsu and like my actual age, they've like aged me to like 67.
Yes.
My joints are like, please slow down.
Yeah, that's. I sometimes I feel guilty that I haven't like exposed. I'll do quote unquote exposed jiu-jitsu a little bit more. Like, this shit is hard on the body. You know, like when a parent asks me about jiu-jitsu or like, hey, should I get my kid into martial arts? And I'm like, rah, rah, rah. I don't do a good enough job of being like, listen, you know, 5 days a week is a lot. If they want to be a pro or they want to compete, okay, you got to do it. But don't forget about the recovery side. Like, I don't think that we talk about that enough. I'm 48. So I'm like, again,
no way.
Like got I think I pulled a groin muscle and I'm like, could barely like move my leg without having like help it with my in certain positions. And we were doing like a guard passing series. So I just got hurt by being a good partner. Like I was just using my legs, keep them away. And we were just kind of shrimping. And I was just like, yeah, something just happened there. And I kept on like an idiot. I kept on training. And now I've been out for, this is going to be 2 weeks. And I'm like, it's not getting better. But I don't think that, you know, it's hard to be a coach and then tell like people don't train so much, you know, or hey, take the day off and go recovery. They want you in, they want the belts on the mat. And I understand that as a business person, but I don't think that we do a good enough job as a community of being like, even the kids have to recover. They should be getting, you know, maybe going to chiropractors and getting adjustments and getting massages even, you know, and ice and heat and all the other things that you got to do. Like you need to be doing that, or in your 20s, you're going to feel like you're 50 and it's going to be really bad for you. And then you're going to have to stop.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I started jiu-jitsu when I was 21 and like, I'm turning 36 this year, you know, like I'm 35, turning 36 and like, and I'm feeling like, man, I can go, you know, especially when I was competing and like, even like my first year at black belt, that was like, I turned 30. So that's like, technically I qualified for masters my first year at black belt. I'm like, man, I'm like going against these like 20-year-old somethings, or like they've been training since they were like teenagers or kids. And I'm like, and I have to keep up with them. And I'm like grinding, like, you know, at that time it was like more like 3 to 4 times training a day, you know, like train in the morning, then you get like strength and conditioning, then you got comp class, then you got night class, you know, and then all while doing this, you're still trying to pay the bills, right? Like teaching classes all over the place. And then like, man, I was just like a knucklehead, you know, and like, yeah, you're going to start feeling it, you know, in your 30s. I'm like, nah, I'm good. And then literally in my 30s, it's like, you know, like, oh, damn, that happened a little quicker than I thought it would.
It's
you know?
overnight.
Like,
it's an overnight thing. It's just.
Yeah. So now I wake up with like all these like, oh man, my knee's hurting. And then, you know, everyone's like, well, what'd you do? You know, I'm like, I woke up.
Yeah.
I got out of bed.
Sadly, that's exactly how it is. It's just like, hey, I woke up this morning, and my wife's laying next to me, and I said, "Did you hear me scream last night?" And she goes, "What?" She goes, "What?" I had gotten up to go to the bathroom, and when I laid back down, just the way I got back into the bed, I hurt that leg, and I had to. It hurt that bad. I could walk around. I could even. I'm fine. But if I move it a certain way, it's just like out. Like something is just injured there. And she's like, "No, I didn't hear you." But she started to laugh just like that. She's like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "You're just getting so freaking old."
Like, what kind of question was that? Like, I don't know how to approach this. Like, did you hear me scream last night? Like, is this a trick question?
Was it like a scary scream or Halloween scream?
No, it was like agony. But I mean, again, you know, I started right before my 41st birthday. So if I'm 48 now. So it's you know, again, it's hard to tell somebody like, don't train. I don't think it's really like you need to tell them not to train. You just have to tell them to be conscious of your body. Your body has a way of telling you, hey, slow this thing down. Don't do this thing. And we just tend not to listen. And I didn't listen. I knew something was like something was up there. And then I guess I aggravated it. Now I'm going to be out.
This goes for working out. This goes for any kind of working out or sport. Recovery is part of the workout.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. Like I tell my students, like you can't overtrain, but you can definitely under rest.
Right,
like
nice.
train as much as you can, train it, but make sure that you're sectioning up the time for recovery. Or like, even like men, your body's wrecked. If you want to like make it like an active rest day, like do something that's different, or just straight up don't do anything. Like this is like the number one thing, is because it's like, I have students who see how successful I was like when I'm competing, and they see what I do when I train and how hard I push myself when I train, but they don't necessarily see the recovery side. And they're like, well, I want to do what KB's doing, I want to do what Kristina's doing, I want to do what Professor's doing. And I'm like, okay, that means you also need to rest. Like I'm going to tell you right now, is like, if you're a blue belt, you're a purple belt, if you did what blue purple belt me did, you're going to be wrecked. And then you're going to be in the same position that when you get to black belt, you won't even be able to compete at the level that you want. And you're still young. So like, take your rest days. Like, don't do like 4 in a day, and like by the last training session of the day, you're like trying to push yourself through it, and you're like not even there mentally. Because then it doesn't do you any good. You're gonna get hurt. You're not learning anything. You're not helping your training partners either. Like, man, just take that hour off, get a little bit more rest. Get a massage, get some salt, whatever. Pop an ibuprofen, drink some water, and come back tomorrow. Like, the mats aren't going anywhere, and you're not gonna get better in that 1 hour.
There's a page that I follow. It's Students of BJJ. He's got a good following, and he puts out a lot of memes. And he's been doing just this series of just like kind of reality checks for jiu-jitsu. And he's like, "Oh, you started jiu-jitsu. Just know that ibuprofen's your new best friend." Something along those lines. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, man. It's. I discovered ibuprofen after my very first competition. I just completely killed myself. I was just like, wow, I just went too hard. I didn't understand how to like kind of conserve a little bit of energy for the the next match. And literally, when I was on my way home, I was like, babe, we got to stop and get some ibuprofen. And we stopped at the supermarket. I even took I did double gold as a white belt. So I was always very proud of that. And I was only training for about 6 months. And I took a picture of the medals, my belt, and the ibuprofen. And I posted that day. I was just like, yeah, what a great day. And
put
then
that
boom.
on the mantle in your
living room. Like, these medals made possible by ibuprofen.
So do you? I have a friend that says, hey, do you eat your own dog food? Do you take your own advice about the recovery? Like, talk to us about what you do for recovery.
100%. Again, especially like when I was younger, I was a knucklehead. I didn't take it too seriously, and then same thing, like I'm trying to be a good partner. It's not even training part, they're just drilling the technique. And then I strained my SI joint, just playing on top. And like, I was like, oh, and I'm like, oh, I'll just sleep it up. And then like the next day I couldn't get out of bed. I'm like, oh, I should be fine. I kept trying to train, and like, no, I strained my SI joint. And like, since then it's like, it's chronic pain. That was when I was a purple belt, like 2011. Right. So now, 11 years later, and it still haunts me. And it's like, man, if I had known better, and also along with the recovery too, keep this in mind too, is also like making sure that your mental game is on point too, because a lot of times it's like, if we're driven to perfection, and if we're driven to like, no, I need to do this because somebody else is working harder, even when you feel your limitations, like, dude, I need to take a break, your brain will be like, but somebody else is training harder, somebody else isn't taking a rest day, somebody else is, right? So it's like it was two things. So part of my recovery is, one, like, if I need to take a day off, I'm going to take a day off. If I feel like, okay, I can't do certain positions, all right, I'm going to drill, and we're going to stay active and like really, really stick to it, like, all right, I'm going to train hard Monday through Friday, and then maybe some light rolls on the weekend, or no rolls at all. Like, depending on like if I have a camp going on, or if it's just, maintenance training, right? Like, if I had a camp going on, and for sure, like, I have a tournament, I'm going to take those weekends very, very seriously. Because again, we're doing 2 to 3 sessions, 5 days a week, and like not that much rest in. And that 2 hours of that session is comp training, and that's super hard on the body. Like, get your recovery in. Do the strength and conditioning too. Not everything has to be jiu-jitsu, although jiu-jitsu is the best way to get better at jiu-jitsu. But if you're thinking about competing, make sure that your muscles are doing the right thing, like, don't try to compensate, like with bad movement, right? Mm-hmm. Like, learn how your body works. You need to also just be in tune. Take CBD, Epsom salt baths, magnesium. I supplement like collagen, protein and BCAAs, were like part of the regular regimen, and it's a good diet and staying hydrated, right? I feel like a lot of things can be solved preemptively. And then once you're hurt, that's when it gets even worse, right? You're like more likely to throw yourself at the wall. And like, that's the time that you really need to kind of stay off a little bit and then know your limitations. So 100%, especially as I got older, I feel like younger me probably wouldn't listen, but older me is just like, no, don't do that stupid, dumb stuff. Right.
I know for me, I've talked about this a lot recently on the show, is I feel better when I'm lifting weights. And it's not, I don't have to be lifting real heavy weights, but between lifting weights and because if I do like one day of jiu-jitsu, Monday jiu-jitsu, Tuesday workout, Wednesday jiu-jitsu, Thursday, our school doesn't have a Friday adults class. So if I can just get Monday to jiu-jitsu Monday and Wednesday, and Tuesday and Thursday, I'm working out with weights. Again, usually light, nothing crazy. I feel like, number one, I'm better at my jiu-jitsu. Obviously, I'm stronger. I'm 240 plus. So I'm already a big guy. So now I feel stronger against, we do have a lot of other big guys my size and heavier. And my body, I feel like I recover better.
Yes.
My recovery's better now. I've went back and forth on this. Is it just because I'm making my muscles stronger, or it's because I have forced myself to take a break between my jiu-jitsu? Now, we do open mats on Saturdays and Sundays, so on a good week, I'll do Monday, Wednesday, at very least Saturday, sometimes Saturday and Sunday. But I just feel like I recover better, my jiu-jitsu's better, and again, been going back and forth on it. It's because I'm like making myself rest a little bit and not doing the jiu-jitsu that, I'm not getting beat up and I'm not getting out of bed, so sore in the morning. So I do feel better. What's your take on lifting weights and doing stuff like that outside of the gym?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really big on functional strength. Like, again, you don't even need to lift heavy. I do feel like you should have at least one weight training session where it's just, strength based, but a majority of your stuff should be functional. Like, I personally am never going to bench press anybody off of me. Right. But I do like functional stuff where I'm learning how to engaging the right muscles. So like, my arms are not big and strong. They look good. Like, they're all cut up. I'm like, hey, for the gram, right?
See it right through the sweater.
You're so big and strong. And I'm like, I don't use my arms, and I'm using all this back here. And all that is like, when I have like the weights, right? Then you learn how okay, I can't just yank stuff. I have to engage everything properly. And then it makes it easier for me to, when I'm learning a technique or when I'm having to engage myself in the technique, I'm like, okay, I can feel what part of my muscles are working. And so now I know, like, I'm not forcing and I'm not using strength to make this position work. I'm literally stabilizing myself, and I'm less likely to get injured too in the training, right? So there's more stability on my joints. And I do believe that, the recovery is going to be a little bit better. I feel like better blood flow means, you're more likely to recover. And then, when you feel that soreness, it's definitely a good check for like, all right, maybe not take it as hard today. And you can get a good workout, especially with jiu-jitsu, without having to necessarily go crazy hard rounds all the time. So like on a day that you lifted a little bit heavier and your muscles are fatigued, that's a really good opportunity to not use strength in your training, but to actually really focus on doing the technique because your muscles are tired. Yeah. So even that aspect of weight training will force you to think differently.
At the school that you're at now, are you teaching kids and adults? Are you doing both classes?
Yeah. I'm teaching everybody. And here's the thing, like the school that I'm teaching at it's a smaller school. This is a very family oriented area. Mm-hmm. A lot of military families here, right? So you got the naval base, and I believe there's some Marines in the area too, if I'm not mistaken. And so the school there is not competition based. We do have people who are interested in competing, and I've started a competition class and I've started adding advanced classes, but majority is they just want to do it for hobby, self-defense. For the kids, it's very self-defense and play oriented, but we do have a more advanced or comp class for the older kids or more advanced kids. And so they can train a little bit harder. but overall it's definitely more relaxed. So I kind of want them to start training a little harder. It's like, just as far as like, hey, you know, you can push yourself a little bit more. Like, don't be afraid to like, you know, I feel like they want to stop a little too short because I guess they don't know like their limits yet. Right.
Yeah.
And I guess, and not everybody knows to test it. So like, little by little, I'm trying to get them to amp up. Okay. Try roll one more round, try to roll another round, like, or at least at the very least do the specifics. Like don't skip out on training, because that's the only way you're going to like get to really apply it. Right. So, and the kids are fun because like they'll do anything that you tell them to do.
Yeah. I like your video. You got great social media, by the way. So I definitely have always enjoyed your videos. And you did a couple of videos where, you know, like things that the kids do. Like, you know, there was one, like you had the gi top on your head, you know, those are hilarious. I know it's so hard to, like, you got to keep them in line, and then you also have to teach, like, I don't know how big your classes are, but you know, you've got these little kids, and then you got to teach them, and you got to kind of keep them like corralled and, you know, kind of paying attention. It's so hard.
Yeah. Well, so what we've done too is, like, you know, since so many kids were like, I want to balance on my head on the wall, is now we've just turned it into one of the warm-ups. Oh yeah. This is the big brain, right? Like, hey, you want to go and try, you know, doing head bouncing? I'm like, hey, head bouncing is actually something that's pretty useful in jiu-jitsu if you want to do, like, you know, hop overs and stuff like that. So like we do bridges and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff that I've made fun of, at least like with the headstands and like doing cartwheels, we just turned it into the warm-ups. So it's like, man, if you can't beat them, just join them. Right?
Is there an age that you feel like a good age to start jiu-jitsu? I think everybody has a little bit of a different opinion. I know coaches definitely have a different opinion than people that are like, yeah, put them in at any, you know, put them in at 3 and 4. It's like, coach is like, that's like too hard for me.
We have 3 different classes, and one of them is we call it the Tiny Pandas. Our mascot is a panda. Okay. So we have the Tiny Pandas. It's only a 30-minute class, and they start at about 4 years old. Okay. So that class is for like the 4 to 5-year-olds. And a lot of it is just like movement drills. Like they're not even really learning jiu-jitsu yet. They're learning like how to have a good base, maybe how to break a grip, and how to forward roll, how to backwards roll, how to stay on top of mount, how to be a backpack, you know. So it's playing jiu-jitsu for 30 minutes. And I enjoy that. I think that's actually pretty helpful. It's just like, I feel like a lot of parents, they want their kids to, you know, when they're like 4 or 5, try to swim. Like they try to get them swimming lessons or even some sort of sport. Just because, like, again, knowing where your body is in space and knowing how to move your body is super important. And even if they don't stick with jiu-jitsu, I think like those little lessons like will just keep them safer, right? Yeah. And so I'm totally okay with kids starting out at 4 or 5 years old, but I could totally like see like eventually, like when I'm getting older, I'm gonna want to pawn that off onto like a blue belt or a purple belt. Yeah. Be like, hey, you want to train for free?
I haven't trained kids. When I first started, I was at a gym where a family friend opened a gym, and it was very small, so I would help with the kids class, and he was in law enforcement, so sometimes he'd be late or couldn't make it, and I would actually like open the gym either by myself or with his wife as even a white belt, but I would handle the kids classes. One of my favorite things to do was we used to have these little competitions. The kids would line up. If I could get a second person to do it, usually like somebody that was maybe coming for the adult classes and they were early, we just stand there kind of like slightly squatted like a tree, and they had to like climb us all the way around, and we would do races. I used to love that. I very much enjoyed the training, so I haven't done that for years. Most of my time at my current gym, I've just been a student. Not most of my time. My entire time at my current gym has just been a student, but I always look back at that. I would love to do that again, just like a time thing. Then I was training like 2 hours a day. I just started jiu-jitsu. I didn't have the side businesses. Like I just had the 9 to 5. And then like an idiot, I went and just opened up all these jiu-jitsu based businesses, t-shirt sites and all this other stuff because I didn't have enough to do. So I haven't really been able to do that. But I've even mentioned to my coach, like, you know, I'd really love to coach a little bit here and there. But I don't even want to get paid to do it because I don't want to have like you have to come on these days. Like, hey, if I showed up early, could I jump in and help out with the kids class? I prefer to do it that way. Yeah. You know? So
just pay me appreciation.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Going back, I was going to say before, you know, one of the things with like kids is, and I always tout my professor for doing this, is when he sees even like a teenager like who's really just like dependent on being like inverted all the time, he'll tell them, hey, be careful. Even his son trains with us. I don't know if you know Felipe and Sofia Amarante.
Yes.
You know Sophia? She's probably around your size. Okay.
Yeah.
So they've got their son, and he just got his blue belt. But he'll go inverted a lot, and he'll tell him, like, if you go inverted like that, if you're always depending on that position, he's like, it's going to be really hard on you when you're older. You're going to mess up your neck. I'm happy to see that he's conscious about that, where I've seen other professors that, they're just like, just let them do what they're going to do. And they're not taking into consideration like that, giving their student that longevity. Again, going back to what I was saying before, it's really, you got to tell these kids, like, they have to be careful with certain things. And there's always some guy that's just like on his legs over his head, on his neck. I just look at those guys and I'm like, oh, he has no clue how much ibuprofen he's going to be taking.
No. It was like, like they have like these trends like on TikTok and Reel, and they have like one where it's like, present me, and then like there's like past me, and like past me is like learning how to do inverted, and then present me is like standing outside the window like, no.
Please tag me in that. I've got to share that. That's exactly how it is, right?
Yeah. Right, because like definitely like when I was a white belt, I didn't know, no one taught me how to invert. Like I'm just super gumby bendy, like fold all over the place. And as a kid, I was just super, super bendy anyways. So like I talk about this now too with my students. Like it's crazy to think that like when I was a kid, right, and I was super bendy and flexible and like freaking pretzel, right, and then adults would be like, oh, I used to be that flexible when I was your age. And I'm like, BS, no, you're just a liar, right? And now I'm at that age where I'm looking, I'm like, oh wow, that was real. Like I'm now at that age. I am officially old, where I say like, when I was your age, I used to do that. And I'm like, damn, like, and you know what? If I had not abused my flexibility the way that I did as when I was younger. And this is even like before jiu-jitsu came into the picture. This is like even just dance, right? If I had not abused my body the way that I did, with like limited knowledge of what I was actually doing and the trauma I'm causing, right, I probably would still have some semblance of like, I'm still super bendy, super flexible, right? But I probably would not have any injuries. I probably be a lot healthier. And so adult me is saying like, no, don't do it. Like don't hang out there. Like one of my students is actually the owner of the academy, and he's also like the head professor, right? He has 3 kids, and the youngest one, Riley, he's like 12, and he's doing wrestling and he's doing jiu-jitsu, and he's like small and he's bendy and he's just kind of wiry. And like sometimes he doesn't invert too much, actually. He likes being on top. He likes playing top game, but sometimes he will get bent up. And I'm like, Riley, don't stay there. Don't don't hang out on your neck too long, And you're like, oh, I do bridges. I'm like, just if you can avoid it.
Just send him that meme. There. Send him that meme.
Yes, don't get there. Yeah. Trust me, you'll know what I'm talking about when you hit 30. I know you're a long ways from there. Yeah. But like, you want to do this forever, just chill, right?
It's like breaking your leg really slowly.
Yeah.
Takes 20 years.
Yes,
it takes 20 years to break your leg.
That's a good analogy. That really is. Were you an athlete as a kid, Kristina? Were you somebody? I know I've heard you mention dance a little bit, but were you an athlete growing up?
No. The first time anyone called me athletic was when I was like 22 or 23 years old, and that was when I was doing jiu-jitsu, because I was classically trained in like ballet and jazz. Okay. I started off at age 5 with like Filipino folk dancing, and then like the next 8 years, once ballet and jazz came in, it was like all classically trained into that. And then once like I kind of phased out of that, which is kind of like, I don't know, there's like a lot of politics and drama in like the ballet scene. I was like, man, I don't really want to deal with this. Like, I love dancing.
I've seen Dance Moms. My wife has made me watch Dance Moms. I get it.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with that, And then eventually I picked up like street style. So like I started breakdancing, and that's when more of like the, again, damage to my body that I didn't know that I was doing, like smashing my knee on concrete, like, oh, this is fine, I'm bendy, right? So yeah, but even then, like I got bullied. I was like, nah, I got bullied. They were like, oh, you do that sissy ballet stuff. And I'm like, this stuff is really hard. This is like really, really hard. And like, oh no, just back then, dance just didn't have the same amount of respect that I feel like it has now. Like I feel like it's super respected now. Like it's especially with social media and you have all like these competitions where like it's actually kind of cool. But back then it was like you're lame, you know. Yeah. So no one called me athletic. I wasn't good at any sports. Like if it required me to get a ball into a goal, forget about it. If there was no physical contact, I wasn't going to be good at it. Like I loved playing football at like middle school, but that was just because I was a rough child. Like I was a kid that if there's any one kid that needed to be put into a martial art or any type of contact sport, it was me. And my mom's like, oh, Annette, girls don't do that kind of stuff there. You have to be a lady. You don't beard up like Gordon. Who's going to marry you if you're ugly because you break your nose, you know, something like, or you break your neck, then you're dead, then voila, no more you're dead. Right. So I wasn't able to like do sports growing up. Like I think the closest was I did like one little season of like basketball in the 3rd grade, and I only did it because my best friend at the time was doing it, and whatever she did I wanted to do, but I couldn't get the ball anywhere. They're like, pass the ball, and I'd like throw it out of bounds. I'm like shoot it, and then like here's the hoop and it's like off to the side, and like I didn't have coordination, but if I had my hands on somebody all day. So no.
Do you think
long story short,
has dance helped you at all? Like, you know, I mean, like we know like wrestling, like I wrestled like for 2 years in junior high and I wasn't very good, but I use wrestling moves. I'm like, oh, I can use this here. And I use cradles on people and use my forehead to tip them over. Like I just do these little things. Is there anything from dance that's helped you in jiu-jitsu?
100%. I mean, like even if you come into a class with me, like everything is somehow, I bring it back to dance. Or I don't know if you've seen any of my videos of me warming up right before competing. I'm dancing.
I've seen the physically fit.
Well, like I dance right before I get onto the mat. I'm also dancing too. Like, oh yeah. In competitions,
oh, yeah.
In my head.
I actually wrote that down. I wrote that down to talk to you about because I saw that video a couple of years ago, probably. There's one, I think there's a famous one where you're just going off on the side of the mat, and I didn't realize it till after we booked the podcast. I'm like, oh, that's Chris. Oh my God, that's her. Because I think I saw another one of like people get you on the sidelines. You've got your phone going or your headset on, and you're dancing off the side of the mat.
Yeah, that's part of like my thing, and so like. When it comes to competition, like I've been in performing arts since I was 5. So when I dance, that already pulls me into the mind, like I'm about to perform, right? Doesn't matter that there's people in front of me or that I have to do something, like I'm about to perform. So like music and dancing just gets me into that zone. Now on the training aspect, it's like the coordination, the timing, the rhythm. Like when I teach takedowns or when I teach like passing, I always say like there's a very specific feel and there's a very specific rhythm. And if you're off rhythm, you're going to have a hard time with this move. So you kind of have to practice, like even when I practice the drills of like reps, like bop, 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 like you're like, oh, it's like you're dancing. Like, yeah. And like we joke about it, like, but you kind of are. It helps to have that coordination because then you don't have to work as hard or you have to compensate as much with like trying to like force the position because you just know how to place yourself there, or even just how to coordinate your body. Like if I tell you to put your leg a certain way, or someone tells me put your foot here, you know, put your right foot here, I'm not like your other, you know, like when you get Napoleon Dynamite, grab me with your hand, no your other hand, no my other hand, you know, like right. So dance has definitely helped. And then when I was a white belt, you know, and that was when people knew that I was breakdancing, they're like, yeah, you keep doing that breakdancing back spinny stuff that you're doing, like when I would invert, that's what you were talking about. I was inverting to recover my guard, and I didn't know that I was doing, but it was like this little like backspin thing. Yeah. And they're like, "Why are you breakdancing?" I'm like, "I'm not. I just don't want you to pass my guard."
I think you know, breakdancers like it's, you know, like
it's
Gio Martinez.
It's capoeira. That's all it is. Breakdancing is capoeira with some robotic stuff.
I mean, yeah, you can kind of look at that like that. I'm sure there's some aspects of breakdancing.
And
cool story about.
Modern dance is jiu-jitsu without the fighting moves.
Yep. Probably, right?
Cool story about Gio. We actually used to dance with each other back when we were like in high school.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So like we knew each other when we were in high school, and like so his crew was in Southern California, and they're called Freak Show, right? And then my crew was in Northern California, and we're DSD1. So for a while, we had like a cool little like friendship where we're like, hey, like let's enter like battles together. And then somewhere along the way, I don't know what happened, but then it turned into like beef.
Yeah.
And so then I was like my crew versus your crew, and like and then we go to these like big tournaments, and they're like, hey, like calling you out. I'm like, and I'm just
are these dance tournaments you're saying, or
yes,
is it like
dance tournaments?
So did jiu-jitsu jiu-jitsu came for both of you after that? Or do you know if he was doing jiu-jitsu before? So you guys knew each other before the jiu-jitsu scene.
Yes,
that's crazy.
That's what's crazy. Yeah. Like we knew each other through breakdancing, and then I didn't even know what jiu-jitsu was. I'm pretty sure he didn't know what jiu-jitsu was. Like what, we were like 17, or whatever. And 17, 18 at the time. Yeah, that was like junior, senior year. Anyways, and then, fast forward, and then I start doing it, and then as I saw like, okay, yeah, there's these guys who had to do jiu-jitsu, and they also have a breakdancing background, and they're like, oh, who? They're like, yeah, this guy named Gio, and he's got his brother like Boogeyman. I was like,
yeah,
I know them. I know them.
That's
like
crazy.
My first time meeting my first time meeting Eddie Bravo was actually like for ADCC 2013 in Beijing, and there's a story before the story. Sorry, but I'll tell maybe that story another time. So like I had met him in the lobby, and then we had this like interaction where it was a fair question. I'm an Asian girl in China. He doesn't know me, right? And we're in the lobby. It's a public space. So he asked me, excuse me, do you speak English? I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh, are you here for ADCC? I'm like, yeah. And then we like chit chat. And he's like, can I ask you some questions about like the housing stuff? I'm like, okay, cool. And I answer his questions. And then after that exchange, he goes, can I ask you another question? Yeah. It's like, why do you speak English so well? Like, it's the only language I speak. So I had that interaction with him the first day. And then the next day, like we saw each other at weigh-ins, and we started chit-chatting. And he was like, yeah. And I don't know how we started talking about dancing. And he's like, yeah, I got, two of my students, like they're breakdancing, and I'm like, oh, who? And he's like, yeah, it's like Gio and his older brother Boogeyman. I'm like, oh, I know them. He's like, you're like, really? I'm like, yeah, we used to dance with each other when we were like in high school.
Small world, right?
Yeah. And he's like, no way. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, man, we got to have some sort of jiu-jitsu breakdancing video thing. And I'm like, okay. Okay, I just met you yesterday, but sure, okay. But yeah.
How do you feel about, you're talking about Eddie Bravo? I love to get people's take on the whole combat jiu-jitsu. What are your thoughts on that? Is it something that you would ever do, or have you?
I don't think I would ever do it. See, I started off with Muay Thai before I even touched jiu-jitsu, and I did Muay Thai a full on year before I even, tried jiu-jitsu again. Well, I started Muay Thai, and then like maybe like a few weeks or like a couple months in, one of the he started showing me like some jiu-jitsu stuff. He's like, here. And it was like no-gi. And like he showed me how to do a triangle. And I'm like, I don't think this jiu-jitsu stuff is for me. I don't like it. It doesn't make sense, right? Like you're telling me that I don't have to be big or strong, and I just need to use technique and leverage, but I call BS because I can't do anything to you, right? So I was like, I think I'm just going to stick to punching and kicking, right? Like I grew up like with like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Jet Li, like I wanted to do all
this
that
doesn't
stuff.
Look
like I want
that.
Van Damme.
That doesn't look like this.
I want to knock somebody out with like a,
the turtle. Donatello is not doing this.
No. I want something flashier. I want to KO somebody, right? And then and so it's just like little words out of my mouth, like I don't think this jiu-jitsu stuff is for me. And then I did it for a year, and then like I had amateur fights, and then I picked up jiu-jitsu, and my teammate convinced me to do it. He lent me his gi top. I didn't have pants, so I just had like grappling shorts. I had like the sambo style, had the baro belt from the gym. Probably I don't know what spunk was on it, but I took it. It's gross, It
wasn't
those belts are just somewhere in the corner.
I've never borrowed, and I've never borrowed, other than my coach giving me something that was clean. Yeah. Even if it was his old stuff, I would never put it on. Never put on the gym gear.
No. And then I had that class, like, oh my God, I should have been doing this the entire time. And then more and more, I was just like, yeah, I really don't like getting hit. I like hitting people, but I don't like getting hit in the face at all.
Common.
Like it's just yeah. And then like I start, connecting even more is like I really like hugging. I'm a very physical person. Like as a child, I was climbing on people and I wanted to wrestle everybody. I'm like, I should have been doing this the entire time. And so I don't think I would ever do combat, but you know what? I'm going to tell you there's something very satisfying about an open hand slap.
I think these guys are getting hip to the game though, like with kind of like the way that the direct palm strike, which is almost like a, essentially like a punch. Or there's a video recently, it was like the second or like maybe 2 EBIs ago, not EBI, 2 combat jiu-jitsu events ago, where the guy just like lifted his both hands and it's like slapping down on his opponent.
Oh, that's it's called the McGregor.
I would call this the Donkey Kong.
Oh God.
And then
see, I never minded my first gym. We did a little Muay Thai, and definitely 2 days a week we did like our no-gi days. It was Muay Thai class, and then we just rolled right into essentially like a no-gi but with stand-up. So we would start with our gloves or grappling gloves on. I love those. I liked Muay Thai. I got into it because I loved boxing, and my dad was a huge boxing fan and all that stuff. I won't go into that, but I like that part. But then when it was just like, and then I get to take them down too. I get to take them down and then continue on the ground. I loved that part. So I do miss those days because now I just do, jiu-jitsu, mostly gi jiu-jitsu. But I didn't mind it. It's I get, if I was getting hit by a pro, it's one thing. But when you're fighting other white belts that are learning, I kind of like it. It was like it hit a button for me. Like I would just be like, "Oh God, I just got hit. This is great. And then I'd maybe go a little bit harder." So I found it fun, but again, I've never trained with any pros.
Yeah, I feel like I could train it for fun. Once in a while, like maybe if I have a friend who's getting ready for a fight, like when Erin was getting ready to fight Grandma, and she was like, "Hey, like come train with me over." She was still at Black House at that time. And then
Erin
so like roll it.
Erin Hart?
Yeah, Erin Hurley.
Yeah.
Hurley.
Hurley.
Erin
Okay.
Hurley. Yeah.
We've had her on. We've had her on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when I was, just messing around with her, and it's like, okay, so we roll. And then like, it was just like grappling class was like, do you want me to like, just kind of paw at your face?
Can I
just
slap
to make
you?
it?
Can I? Please.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay. And then like, I'm like, like I felt like a little cat, like, I don't think I could ever do more than that. Like if it's to help somebody, cool. I don't think I would ever want to put myself through the training though. Cause like, again, I'm getting older and I don't particularly like getting hit.
Yeah.
I like having my faculties about me and not being concussed due to head strikes.
Hey, Kristina, real quick, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to do some shout outs to some of our sponsors. So we'll be right back. Okay. Don't go anywhere.
All right.
Thank you to DD214 Fightwear, gear for patriotic rollers. Visit their website, dd214bjj.com, and get 15% off your online order with code JJD. And check them out on Instagram at dd214_fightwear. Thank you to Feito IT and AV, specializing in commercial and residential automation, security cameras, and CCTV. Check them out at feitoitav.com and let them know the dummies sent you. Special thanks to Fightback CBD. Go to fightbackcbd.com and check out their growing line of CBD products. Find the best solution for your CBD needs and use code JJD to get 20% off your next purchase. Visit them on Instagram too at FightbackCBD. Special thanks to George Hernandez, Claims Adjuster. Have you experienced damage to your residential or commercial property in the state of Florida from flood or fire, storms, theft and vandalism, even sinkholes, just to name a few? Don't get stressed out dealing with your insurance provider. Call George Hernandez today and let the professionals get you the most compensation possible. Visit hernandezclaims.com or call 305-712-6751 to get help now. And stay in touch with them on Instagram at Hernandez Claims.
And we're back. Thank you for sticking around, Kristina. So we've been talking a little bit about like your start in jiu-jitsu and well, really you started with Muay Thai. So tell us, how did you get? Because I know just personally, just from following you online and hearing you on other podcasts, like you definitely prefer the gi, right? You're definitely more of a gi competitor. Will you compete no gi though? I mean, I've seen you on the mats no gi, but it's not your preference to be out there in a no gi competition. Is that right?
Yeah. I've found that I have to be, at least now, there's like definitely an evolution, because again, like when I was younger, or like even at white and blue belt, competition was competition, jiu-jitsu was jiu-jitsu. Like I just wanted to be on the mat as much as I possibly could, all the time. And then but it was kind of hard, like at the bigger tournaments, especially as like a blue belt for nogi, because at that point they still had blue and purple belts together for IBJJF. And then it was like, man, this is kind of hard. Like, couldn't test myself realistically. And then like as I got further more, I was like, I guess lost my love for nogi as much. And I think that's just because I had, like, when I was in teams, when I was in Arizona too, like school was very like gi heavy, gi lovers. And like we did have nogi, I think we had it like twice a week, and I would do it just because I wanted to train. But like as I started competing, I guess I had a lot of negative experiences attached to no-gi competitions as opposed to like the gi, right? The gi always felt safe. It always felt like that's why I started. And when I had all these like negative experiences, and not necessarily due to jiu-jitsu, it could have been other stuff too. And it just so happened that it was, forcing myself and pushing myself to do these like no-gi tournaments. And then it felt like I got to a point where I was doing it out of obligation as opposed to actually wanting to compete. Like, I don't want to compete. I'm just doing it because I feel like I have to. And then I was getting injured. I was getting hurt. It was hard to get through the training. It was hard, like, getting through like the losses too, like, man, like I know I'm better than this, but like having that huge mental block there. So I kind of like made this agreement with myself that's like, unless I am mentally prepared and okay to handle like the training and like everything about like going to a no-gi competition, I'm not going to force myself to do it. Right. And I feel like I've gotten to that point with jiu-jitsu. It doesn't matter gi or no-gi, but particularly no-gi. Like I can't force myself to do anything. I am more likely to get hurt in no-gi training than I am in gi training, just because the lack of grips, it's a lot faster. I also feel like I have less training partners no-gi because just not having the gi makes it harder to work with people who are bigger and stronger, right? At least training realistically. I don't ever want to take away from someone else's training, even though I know I have a lot to offer, but I can't offer a certain amount of pressure. And I also know that person is going to be considerate. They're not going to try to hurt me. They have to work differently, but at some point it's like, I feel like, man, like I just can't keep up. Either I'm in pain or, it's just not following through. And then having that mindset, like, man, today was more of like an L today. Like, even though I know that there's definite wins, it wears on you mentally, and then it starts showing physically, and then it starts manifesting. And then you get to the day of the tournament. Like I've had, like the last time that I competed at Worlds, no-gi, I had 2 panic attacks that day. One of them being right before I stepped onto the mat. And I'm like, this sucks. Right. Yeah. And granted, like there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm like, man, I associate so much of stepping on to compete no-gi with that panic attack, even though it's like it's not happening, but like I'm freaking out, and there's absolutely no reason for me to be, other than like my nervous system is just shot. So, can I train no-gi and prepare for a tournament for as long as I'm in the right mindset and I know I'm just going to have fun and there's no pressure behind it? Yes, absolutely. I absolutely do love training no-gi. But I just have to be training for the right reason. Because if I'm just training because I feel obligated, no, I don't have fun. I get hurt, and I don't feel like I'm a good person to be around if I'm not in the right headspace. Because then that just, people can feel that energy, and your training partners and your students and like they deserve better than that. At least I feel. But nowadays it's a lot more positive.
I have a lot more respect for the gi as I get older, because I can control the pace with the gi more. Just the fact that I can grab somebody's leg, grab their pant, grab a collar. I can control the pace, especially if I'm injured or my cardio is sucking right now, which is almost always. I can control the pace, and I can and because I'm usually a bigger guy, especially in my gym, I know that I can control the pace of the faster guys, of the younger, faster guys. And then there's like, and those guys that they do love to train no gi, they're like, hey, how come I can't move into this position? Because I have your gi right here. I've got
That's
your
so
collar
funny.
around the back. You can't know you're not going that way. So I do love that aspect of it. And as I get older again, I'm learning to respect it even more and more.
That's so funny that you say that, like, you as a bigger guy, like using the gi and the lapels to slow down people who are like smaller and faster. And then me as a smaller, not strong person, like using the lapel on people who are bigger than me so I can attach like one of my students today was like, yeah, it was just like some sort of evil backpack. like she got my lapel and I thought I could, it's like he was trying to explain this to like a purple belt. This guy was a brown belt. He's like, me and my friends, I'm actually gonna have dinner with him and his girlfriend tonight. And like, he's like, yeah, like one of my first times rolling with her. I was like, oh, okay, well, she's smaller. I'm like, all right, and then she attached like an evil backpack. And I was like, oh, no. And then I tried throwing her off and I couldn't, and it made the choke worse. And it's like, that's what I absolutely love about the gi is that it enables everybody to be on the same level field. Like, it doesn't matter if like you're bigger and you want to slow down someone who's smaller and faster. It doesn't matter if you're smaller and you want to use that as a form of like leverage or attachment so that you don't have to use as much strength or you're not getting ragdoll all over the place. Like we can play the same game, but we can approach it very differently, all just because of the gi. And there's like so much creativity with that too. Like granted, there's a lot of creativity in no-gi too, right?
Absolutely.
But I feel like there's just even more opportunities because of the lapel, right? I mean, people are just inventing stuff all the time, and they're like, hey, what if I just put it over here? Or what if I,
So it seemed like when I said as a bigger guy that I like that, it seemed odd to you, right? You're saying it's like, oh, it's kind of odd to hear a big guy talk. Like most of the time we're going to talk about like smash and pass. So there's a very specific reason, at least for me, for that is because there are some large men my size and bigger in my gym right now. I've had others come and go, but I'm probably the one that's lasted the longest, at Brown. I've been at my school since Blue. But there's a very specific reason, because most of the people that I roll with are usually smaller or have less experience. I'm almost always going to pull guard on them. Because it's number one, it's no fun for me to just smash and lay on top of them. And it's no fun for them. And I'm somebody who, as a business owner, I do understand the business of jiu-jitsu, and that if I'm beating up everybody that comes through that door, I'm not helping my coach build his business, because then they're not learning. Plus, then you're the gym asshole, because then you're just always the guy that just smashes the little guys or the less experienced guys. So my mindset is very much different. I'm going to, with this particular person, I'm going to work on my defense, and I'm going to pull them on top of me. So I'm going to let them come. And I'm not going to just let them do whatever they want. I'm going to work my defensive tactics. But if it's a bigger guy, there's a guy in my gym right now that's 300 pounds, and he lost 40 pounds doing jiu-jitsu. And I've had him lay on top of me. I've had him in it. Like I did I put somebody into my lockdown. I'll get a nice lockdown, and then I'll let them work and try to get their leg out. And I had him laying on top of me that day, and I couldn't do a thing. I was just like, I couldn't get my arm and grab his gi. Like I couldn't get under his leg. Yeah, it was like I was just under there going, yeah, now I know how those little guys feel. So I respect and understand that part, and I just use those opportunities to work on them. So as a bigger guy pulling guard, I rolled with an ex-UFC fighter, and he's been on the show a couple of times. And we were at the gym. He came to visit, and I pulled guard on him, and he's probably like 185, and again I'm like 240. And I Jim Allers. I don't know if you know Jim Allers. Again, he was he competes. He's been on Fight to Wins, and he did fight in the UFC. I pulled guard on him, and he just looks down and he goes, "I did not expect you to pull guard." He's thinking I'm gonna try to double leg and just smash and pass. And I was just like, I'm just so used to that. And I did kind of look at him like, am I going to really try to double leg this guy? And I was like, let me just pull guard and let's get this to the ground quick. I mean, he's a much more experienced fighter than me. But yeah, I'm doing it for a very specific reason. I love the smash and pass, and I can do that. But it's just no fun for the other guy. And I do want to have fun with my jiu-jitsu, and I'll take every opportunity to say, even in a bad position, I'm learning something. So
yeah. And that's always great. Like that's like one. as like kind of a good training partner, kind of like good acknowledgement. Like sometimes like, you know, one of the videos that I post out, and I feel like that's like, I don't even say controversial. That's like a weird word to say about it. But like, I feel like the video that I put out that got the most, like, I guess like triggered a lot of people, where it's just like, I put something on here and like, you know, like the person that's like like uses too much strength, overly aggressive guy, like, you know, like walk the other way. Like you know, I'm not saying that I'm not ever going to like train. It's like, but like, you got to think about it. Like, people are like, oh, so that means you don't train with anybody. You're not going to train with anybody who's stronger than you. You're not going to train with everybody. Like, no, I can train with people who are stronger than me. I don't want to train with anybody who's going to hurt me.
Yeah.
You know, I like, and like, this isn't to be like an exclusive thing. Like, oh, now you have to sit in the corner, but it's more of like, hey, if people don't want to train with you because they're getting hurt, that's something for you to kind of step back and be like, is there something that I can address or something that I can do differently? Because you can still get a really good amount of training without having to use 100% of your strength, or again, use your strength where it's appropriate. Like, dude, if you're 200 pounds and you're going against like someone who's like 140, you know, or even like 150, like, why are you cranking on stuff? Like, there's no need. Like, you got your position. There's no need for you to, you know, drive into someone's rib, or there's no reason for you, like there's no need. You're just gonna get to that point where people are like, oh yeah, that guy goes too hard, or he goes like every round is like the finals of worlds. I'm like,
yeah.
You know, right? Like, they're like, and it's like fundamentals class, right? Like, why are you going so hard? Like, dude, your training partner's like a white belt, and he's got like 2 kids, he's got a 9 to 5, and you're trying to train like it's the finals of worlds. Like, save it for comp class, or save it for the advanced class, or you know, train that way with someone who can match that energy, not with a guy who just got off like his, you know, got off work.
You know, I think we all know, you know, too, like when I go to my gym, I know the guys that roll hard. I know the guy that I might want to stay away from tonight because I'm not feeling so well or something's hurt. And I'm like, I know he doesn't have a, you know, it's you know, I think it takes you to get to like purple belt before you start to really truly do the thing that we say that you're supposed to do, which is, you know, kind of leave your ego at the door. It's not so easy. It's not even easy when you're brown and black. And like, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it's just that one guy that you know you want to beat or rolls hard with you, and it just escalates, right? But I think there's a point at that purple belt where you start to kind of go, all right, I could put myself in a bad position and it's not the end of the world. Now, there's the whole other side of this too is, and you said this before, like, it sounds like you're in a gym where it's mostly hobbyists, right? It's kids and hobbyists, and it's people that I have to go to work the next day. You can't hurt me. I'm not doing, this part of jiu-jitsu is not how I make my living. You can't hurt me because I have to go to this regular job tomorrow. And the majority of jiu-jitsu is like that, right? The majority of students don't compete or aren't trying to take this to a higher level as far as, you know, making money from this being their career. So you have to be conscious of that. There's somebody very specific at my gym who we used to have some battles, and we used to kind of get into little, like, you know, pushing arguments once in a while, like you went too hard or you did something wrong. And he recently was just like, he's acknowledged that and said, like, I'm just not like that anymore. And why? Because he's older. He's got injuries, and he's realizing like he can't do that with everybody. So there comes a point, and he's purple belt. There comes a point where you really truly start to go, I can really leave the ego at the door. Now, I'm saying that, and I'm still not great with it. I might give up position, but I'm really horrible at, quote unquote, letting somebody submit me, like really letting them take it all the way. I'll let them get really close, and then I might fight back really hard. And that's still something that I battle with. I had a coach one time. He was a brown belt coach. And the first time I ever rolled with him, I just went after him. I got him into a north-south, and I submitted him. And I realized as soon as it was over, he was just smiling at me. He's like, that was great. I'm like, he just totally let me do that. His mindset was, let me just let him get it out and let him submit me so then we can have fun with jiu-jitsu. Because now I wasn't thinking about, oh my God, I got to submit this guy. I realized he taught me it, even though he let me win, what he taught me was, hey, look, we're going to train some jiu-jitsu, and you might catch me and I might catch you. But he let me kind of impose my game, gave it to me, and it was kind of like, all right, bud, you got that out of you? He didn't say it, but the body language is like, you got that out of your system? Okay, now let's roll. Now let's roll that. You've got it out, and like you're fearing of like how bad this is going to be, or I'm going to beat you up, you're going to beat me up. And that taught me so much in one roll, and so much of it was unspoken. And then we just had some really competitive, fun rolls, and he tapped me a lot, but it takes a long time for people to get there. And it's still something that I battle with. I'm talking about it like I do it perfect. I don't. I still have it. So once in a while, I drag that ego onto the mat, and there's, I come back and I'm like all healed, nothing hurts, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm the hammer today, buddy. Yeah,
today's the day.
Yeah, today's the day. I'm gonna get you, and then that can go away real quickly with just one roll with your professor.
No, and that's the great thing about jiu-jitsu is it doesn't matter. Again, like I walk in, I understand, I've been a black belt for over 6 years, I've won a bunch of things. It's just dude, on any given day, someone could submit me, someone could put me in side control and I won't be able to get out. I'm like, ugh, like a little squished bug, right? But my priority is I just want to get hurt. And between a bruised ego or a torn something or a strained something, I'm okay with having a bruised ego, right? Yeah. I'm gonna take my L's where I have it. And one of the things too with jiu-jitsu is why I feel like people stick with it, right, so long, and why they get so, I get gung-ho about it. And it's you don't get that immediate instant gratification like you do with kickboxing or boxing. You punch somebody and you feel good. You kick somebody, you feel good. Right. Jiu-jitsu, it's not that obvious, right? When you make your you get your W's, when you get your wins, you finally get a sweep, it takes a while for you even just to get that sweep. And it's so important, especially I feel as an instructor, as a professor, it's I need to make sure that my students get to celebrate those things. So maybe I'll play possum, or hey, get that, take advantage of this grip right now. And then they go. And I'm like, damn, that was a really good sweep. Because we want to encourage them, because you need some sort of reward, because otherwise if they're waiting for, to be winning every single round and not getting submitted to be the reward, then they're never going to feel good. Or, if they're coming in and they're losing every round in training, they're never going to get that gratification reward. Man, why do I do this? I'm just sucking all the time. No, man, it's little wins, right? Little wins. Oh, maybe I did a grip different, or maybe I didn't get armbarred as quickly, or maybe I got out of something. And it's super important that we kind of we foster that, right? Yeah. Again, either I'll let them sweep me, or especially with the kids, it's you want to build their confidence up, and of course, when I go, when I train with my women students and my men students, there's also a very different approach too, right? With the guys, it's I have to enforce, you can't use strength. You're using all your strength right now and you still can't get out of side control. Use your technique, right? And then when I'm, training with the women, I'm like, hey, use your legs, push. Don't be afraid to push me. Don't be afraid to use your body, right? It's almost I don't want to say we're teaching them separately, but or differently, but it's we're teaching them to engage in a different way, where it's where women, it's you're encouraging them to be empowered. And with men, it was we're kind of encouraging hey, use a different tool. Not everything has to be a hammer, right? Yeah. This might be a screwdriver job, or this might be a needle nose plier, right? Yeah. This is not a sledgehammer or Right?
What are your thoughts on, and I mean, every school's a little bit different. What are your thoughts on men and women training together? Do you, in my school, we used to absolutely train together, and now we do split off. The women's and the men's classes have been in different sides of our gym, literally walled off that we have kind of two mat sections. And sometimes we'll train together, but we put cones on the mat, and there's women on one side and men on the other. What's your take on that? What do you guys do in your gym?
Co-ed training is super, super important. I absolutely 100% believe in co-ed training, because everybody has something valuable to offer, right? Me as a woman, even though I'm smaller and I'm not super strong, I am going to present way different problems to my male counterpart that another male training partner would not be able to present, right? Off the bat, I'm a little bit faster, I'm a little bit more flexible. I'm, in this case, I'm more experienced in all of them. So they have to, they're forced to train differently with me. They have to, you can't train with me the same way that you would train with a white belt guy your same weight, or someone bigger than you. There's ways that you have to train differently. And it's super important that you learn different ways to train, because you can't approach oh, I'm just going to do the same thing with everybody. That's not how it works. Especially if we're thinking about man, do you want this to be realistic? Right. people are like, man, like the realism of jiu-jitsu, it doesn't necessarily come from in a street fight, someone's going to punch you or someone's going to stab. Like, it's not necessarily that, but the realism as in person needs to be reacting a certain way, and you need to respond to that. You need to respond to that stimuli, right? Whatever it is that they're giving, you need to respond to it. So I'm going to present you problems, and you're going to present problems to me too, that like you are going to challenge me differently than, again, another woman would challenge me. Like, maybe I won't have to worry about as flexibility with you, or maybe I have to worry about more pressure, or I have to worry more about your grips, where with someone else, I'm going to worry about their legs. It's super important that you have that. There should still be, I think, a separate class. I don't think men and women should train separately altogether, like you have them on different sides of the mat, but there should be a dedicated class for women, because that's super important too, for kind of building that sisterhood and building that comfortability. A lot of women have a hard time coming onto the mat because, one, they feel like, oh, I'm the only one here. They feel out of place. And so just having that women's class gives them a place to feel like, oh, I belong here. And then that's a really, really good way to kind of encourage them to like step into like the co-ed classes, where they can kind of challenge themselves even more. The hardest part for women is always just getting them onto the mat. You know, not all of them need that women's class, but just having it available is an extra perk. And I feel like every school can benefit by having a strong women's program. You don't necessarily need to separate everybody, have your co-ed classes, but just have that one separate class for them, so that they can build and empower themselves. Because I feel like most women come in, not just for the jiu-jitsu, but particularly for the community that they can get. Yeah. And they get even more empowerment from that community.
We have on any given day more women train in our gym than men. More women show up. There are some times that the guys' class is so small that they bring we just do it all. We'll do it all together. My gym has done a really good job with Sophia runs like a kind of like a fitness class. So I would say 75% of the women that train at our gym, they had their kids in the school first. So the kids trained, and then they got the women on the mat, and a lot of times they got the women on the mat through the fitness stuff, which the guys just have not responded to. But she does a female-only fitness class, and then they're almost all of them train jiu-jitsu as well. So those classes are some of the biggest. It's been a great way for them to get to build that part of our school. And even before all the craziness that happened within the jiu-jitsu community with kind of the sexual assault issues and things like that happened. They were doing this. We had split the women off, so it wasn't like a reaction to things that were happening. But they split them off, and they've just built it. And our coach he's always posting. He just posted the other day. He's like, "Come on, guys, you got to step it up." And then it's like pictures of a women's class or a bunch of the little girls that are training. It's like they outnumber us in our school now. And hats off to them. When you have a husband and wife team like that, it's people feel really comfortable about bringing their daughters and them training themselves when there's a female presence.
Yeah, she's an amazing leader in the women's jiu-jitsu community. Like I remember, watching her, compete, when I was still maybe like a blue belt when I'm seeing her compete as a black belt, and I'm just like, dude, she's like badass, right? And then you see that good leadership and good female leadership. It trickles down. Like, again, it makes everybody feel empowered, right? It's kind of like when when they introduced wolves back into like Yellowstone Park, right? Right. So you have like this awesome she wolf, right? And then it gets like the other wolves come back, and then the whole ecosystem thrives. Yeah. And essentially that's what happens when you have one strong female leadership, and you have a strong presence, especially having a female instructor as a head professor, teaching not only just female classes but also co-ed classes as well. Everyone benefits from that, right? It brings more women in. The women know it's a safe place. The guys also know it's a safe place. And the guys and being better for it too. They're great training partners. Everybody can train with each other. And then of course we can split off too. When we have comp class, we'll, if we can, we'll separate the women on one side and the guys on one side. And the guys will still also be split up into different weight groups. Yeah. So it's everyone can train with an appropriate, realistic setting, especially for competition, right? I'm not going to fight against any guys in tournaments anymore. I did when I was a white belt, but not anymore, right? So it's good that we can have each other. And then there'll be other times just okay, well, we have a black belt female who's kind of in the middle heavy or heavyweight weight, but like all the other women are like feather or like light feather, like it doesn't make sense for her to stay there. So then we'll put her in with a different group of like the guys of equal size and strength, because she's a black belt and she can do that. So it's like there's always ways to like make it work. And then again, like as you get like progress higher, yeah, you're gonna want to try and train with as many people as you can, but you should not feel obligation at all. Like if someone makes you feel uncomfortable or like, man, I got an injury or whatever the reason is that is personal to you, you don't have to tell anybody. You don't feel comfortable training with anybody, you don't have to train with them. Like you can definitely be particular, and this is for guys and girls, right? But even more so like at the lower belt, you should be like, hey, like instructors should be looking out for them, like especially like the white belt females, and then even like white belt guys too, like especially if they're smaller, you should be looking out for like, hey, that's not a good partner matchup there. Like here, let's let's
a good coach is going to do that though.
Yeah.
A good coach is going to grab you and say, now, again, my coach Felipe will say, find someone that's appropriate for you. When he sees like a 300-pound white belt with a little skinny white belt, that's not appropriate for you. And again, I'll jump in with that. I'll be like, big guys who want, are there any big guys here that want to, like come here, I'll roll with you. But he's done a great job of like, hey, no, this matchup is one guy's up here, one guy's like, no, this isn't an appropriate matchup, at really any point.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it if like one of them was like an upper belt, one's a lower belt, then there's like a teaching opportunity there too, especially in the fundamentals classes. Fundamentals classes is, I think that's the time that I really try to push more like diversity in training partners, like train with everybody. Try it on someone bigger, try it on someone smaller, try it on someone who's like the same close in rank, try it on someone who like really outranks you, or maybe it's like a little bit lower. And like, cause so everyone has a chance to be like, there's three kind of training partners you should always have. You should always have someone who you're going to always get the better of, like they're the nail and you're going to be the hammer. Then you should have the training partner where, it's a vice versa, right? So you always have to be on the offensive, and they're defensive, or defensive and offensive. So there's always that duality there. And then you have to have the one training partner who it's always back and forth. Like I would say you're both hammers, but like you're both like, you're trying to get this job done. Some days it's going to be you, some days it's going to be them, but every single day it's like this. So if you really want to progress, you need to have those few training partners. The only way you're going to find that out is by, again, having some diversity, using some oversight by the instructors, by the professors, and students shouldn't be afraid to talk with the professors too. Like, hey, if I have a concern, like I have an injury, or like maybe I had a bad experience with so-and-so. I'm like, okay, noted. Let me be aware of that. So if you're not comfortable, let me switch it around, or, let me watch this person more carefully so I can see if, are they doing this because they don't know any better, right? Because there's a lot of white belts who don't know how to roll yet. You have to learn how to do that. Or are they doing it because, like, is it intentional? In this case, this is something that we really need to talk about, because it's like, man, that's not a kind of culture that we want to keep growing within the school. Again, at the end of the day, especially over here where it's like, it's more hobby-based, not necessarily competition-based, like everybody wants to be able to work the next day. Everyone wants to be able to take care of their kids and have good quality of life and still do jiu-jitsu. Nobody wants to get injured. You should not have to get injured to be good or get better in jiu-jitsu.
So I'm real curious. It's been kind of in the back of my head since you mentioned her before. You mentioned your mother. Yeah. Your mother was like, probably thought you were crazy for training. And was like, why are you doing this? How does she feel now? Still the same?
Yeah, here's the thing. I love my mother, and I know that my mom loves me too. I know she deeply, deeply loves me, but she grew up very, very differently from me, right? And we are polar opposites when it comes to personality and values. And like, I am not the daughter. I hate to say this. Like, I'm not the daughter she wanted. The daughter she wanted would like dresses and makeup and jewelry, and would like to, like not this, not what this is, but she absolutely does love me, but she has a hard time understanding why I like being so physical and why I do all these things that are so hard on my body. And it's like, man, like it makes me feel good. Like it's good for my mental health. It's good for my physical health. Like it makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel like I have a purpose. And it's hard for her to understand because she did not grow up this way. Like she is like she only has one other sister, and then she has 7 brothers.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and like it's like old school Filipino where it's just like she didn't even get to pick what she wanted to go to college for. Like her her parents picked it, and like, she didn't have too much autonomy to just do whatever she wanted, right? And so and then here's me who's like super, I don't even want to say that I'm rebellious, but let me just say that I have a really good sense of self, and I'm like, that doesn't feel authentic. That doesn't feel right. And I'm very outspoken about it. And like, why do you have to be difficult? And so she tries so hard to understand, but I know she will never stop worrying. She will never stop, like she'll say, it's like, I'm her only daughter too. Like I'm her youngest, and I'm also her only daughter, right? I have an older brother, so it's just us two. And we're also polar opposites. So it's like, oh, Anak, like, I just wish that, maybe you go back to school and get a real job. And I'm like, this is a real job. This is a real job. I get paid really, really well to teach people how to aggressively cuddle each other. And it's super rewarding.
Has she ever seen you compete live? Has she ever been at a match? Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that go?
It's okay. So the first time she watched me do Muay Thai, it was like dramatic. Like we're like on like a telenovela, like, oh, Anna, please don't ever make me do that again. I had heart palpitations. I have to see Dr. Chang. I almost had a heart attack. Please, Anna, don't do this. You're going to give me an early death. I'm like, oh my God, so dramatic, right? So then the first time she watched me jiu-jitsu, she watched me do jiu-jitsu, and like my teammates were sitting with her, and they're trying to explain to her what's going on, and they gave me the rundown of like, what did my mom say, right? And it's just like, what is she doing? Like, why is she on her back? Is that bad? Like, no, she's playing guard. That's actually good. Like, but she's on her back. And then like, yeah, no, she can do that. It's like, oh, it's over. What happened? What happened there? She got her to tap. Tap. What is this tap? She got her to quit. Oh, that is good? Yeah, that's good. Oh, I don't understand. So like all she knows is I'm not getting punched, I'm not getting kicked, but there's just a whole bunch of rolling around. Like I remember we had lunch with her one time, and I was still a white belt, and like I had some like bruises on like my arm, like from someone gripping me, and then she's like looking at my arm. She's like, what are these bruises so ugly? Oh, what happened here? What happened here? And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, it's just from rolling. And she goes, rolling like on the grass? I'm like, no, not on the grass, not on the grass. Jiu-jitsu. It's like, oh, I don't like that, So she knows that I'm not getting punched or kicked. She did happen to be there for like one of my fight to wins, the one where I like tore my knee, and it was super loud. And like I couldn't move my knee, and like you see this picture of like me smiling, and like it's like I was going against Patty Fontes, and she's like super apologetic. She's like, I'm so sorry, and I'm looking at her, the photo of me like smiling, and like it's okay, I have like one of my best friends is next to me. He's looking at her like, what did you do? And then like they're carrying him off. I'm like, oh, I'm totally fine. It's okay, I'll be fine. And then like they took me to the back. My mom comes rushing in. She's like, dang. I'm like, Mom. Like I was completely fine until I saw my mom, and they just started crying. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to have surgery. And oh my God. And she's like, why are you doing this to me? And like, why do you have to do this? And it's like, so she's accepted. She can't stop me. But she's hoping that she can convince me to stop. But it's like, man, it's like I'm like, what? How many years? I'm like going on 15 years deep, so we're long gone, Mom.
What was the conversation like? Because I believe that you went to school. You were in the veterinarian.
Vet tech.
Vet tech. You were vet tech. Okay. What was the conversation like? Well, like, yeah, Mom, I've gone to school for this thing, but I'm not going to do this thing now, and I'm going to go. What's that conversation like? Was there a conversation?
yeah, there was, I don't really wasn't much of a conversation. So the conversation did and did not happen at the same time. I got my certifications, I went to school, and then like at that same time, like I had gotten to this relationship, and then with this person, like, so it's my ex-fiance, but he was also for a time, he was also my professor, right? So, and he was in Arizona and I'm in California, and I was like, well, we really want to not have this distance and we really want to be together, right? So after I graduated, I got my I did my test, I got my license and everything. I was like, all right, I got everything. I'm gonna move over to Arizona to, be with my fiance, and jujitsu wasn't even in my mind to do it full time. Like I thought I was just gonna train and I was gonna get a job there as a veterinary technician, and then just just continue what I was doing, work and then train and then compete when I can, right? I couldn't find work. No one was hiring. And I was just getting really like frustrated. It's like, man, like I can't not work. I need to work. And then so slowly but surely, he's just like, well, you can start off like, hey, if you work this event for me, I can pay you. Like, oh, if you work the front desk a little bit, I can pay you. Then little by little, like it slowly just became my full-time thing. I stopped looking for work as a vet tech, and I focused everything on just learning everything about jiu-jitsu, from promoting and running tournaments, running event, doing seminars, like not teaching them myself, but like learning how to do everything behind the scenes, making brackets, making flyers, contacting sponsors, like doing all the business aspect of it. And then eventually like learning how to like, help him run his business. I had no intention of doing that. So there really wasn't a conversation, because there was never one day that like, hey, I guess I'm just going to do this full time, because I had every intention of trying to work as a vet tech. It just didn't pan out that way. I couldn't find work, and then I wanted to work, and he gave me that work, and it just so happened that it aligned, and I don't regret that ever. Like I thought that, when our relationship ended and I moved back to California, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to try to go back to regular work. I'm like, man, I've been out of medical practice, out of veterinary practice for so long. I don't think I can. And it just made sense for me to just stay doing jiu-jitsu. So it's like, oh, so are you going to get a job? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to see if anyone's going to hire for an instructor, or I'm going to see if I can start booking seminars. And like, that was definitely worrying for them. Like, you don't have like an actual 9-to-5 job. Like, nope, I'm going to travel around and commute everywhere to like make $100 here, $100 there, 200 here, 500 there, 1,000 here, like I had to hustle. But I loved every part of it. My mom, not so much.
So fast forward to this morning. I'm getting ready for the podcast, and I commented on a picture of you holding a young man, a purple belt, and you're holding him. I laughed to tears. I saw that picture, and I read and I'm just like, I just totally understood like that, like how he could feel in that moment. And I was I had tears coming down my face, and I was like, I got to comment on this. We got to talk about this later. It's a picture of you. Is it your current boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay, so a picture of your current boyfriend. He's a purple belt, and you are holding him. I don't know if he just got promoted, but you're holding him. You're holding him like a small child. The look on his face. The look on his face was priceless. So, tell me about that. How do you guys train together often? Does he train at your school or?
So it's a long distance relationship. We try to make it work. I mean, now it's a lot better. Like when I was in California, he's in Baltimore. Okay. So that was like, well, coast to coast. Now that I'm in Florida, it's somewhat at least kind of in the same coast. I mean, technically I'm still in Central, right?
Yeah.
So like, I'm like, I'm in Florida and still, I'm still like Central South. But it's still a lot better, and it's easier, at least now that like I have a stable, like, position, that it makes it easier for him to visit me, or he has a son too. And so that picture, that was the day he got promoted to purple belt, and I just wanted to take a picture with him, but we were also taking pictures of like him, like with his sponsor, and like with his belt, and with his professor, and like, so I didn't even know like like that picture got taken when it got taken, because at that point we were still just kind of setting it up, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a video that got about that. I didn't know about the video either, because so he was videotaping it and then taking photos at the same time. So so I was just like, and he's such a good sport. Like I was like, he'll like humor me. I'm like, babe, can we take like a cutesy picture where I hold you like this? And he's like, whatever you want, my love. And I'm like, okay. And then
did you guys meet in the jiu-jitsu world? Is that what brought you guys together?
So yeah, he'll attest. So we met on Instagram.
Okay. And somebody slid into somebody's DMs.
Yeah, he slid in my DMs. He'll say that he didn't. Okay, but to be fair, I was doing like an AMA, right? And I guess like his question was too long to put into like the inbox, right? Mm-hmm. So he messaged me directly with his question, and his question was like, "Hey, like I don't want to be disrespectful or anything, so like, but I have a question. Like, are you in a relationship? And if you are, like, I see that you travel a lot and you're always constantly training. You're at the gym. Like, how do you make that work? If you're always traveling and all that." And I didn't find it disrespectful at all. And here's the thing, I'm also pretty naive. So if someone asks me a question like that, I'm like, oh, this sounds like a pretty normal, straightforward question. They're not trying to get anything out of this. And I'm pretty sure he wasn't. He says he wasn't. He says he was being respectful. Right. And I was like, yeah, I'm not in a relationship. It's not really like it's not like I don't want to be in a relationship, or that it's like I'm trying to find one. It's like, but if the right person comes along, like I'm focused on my thing, and if the right person comes along, they're going to understand that what I'm doing is, what I'm doing. And then we make it work, right? The right person's going to understand that. And he's like, whoa, I didn't expect for you to message me. Thank you so much for taking the time, like super respectful. And then he goes like, by the way,
what are you doing Saturday?
No, here's a twist.
There we go.
By the way, I see that you watch anime.
Okay.
I see you watch anime. And it's like, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I'm gonna suggest this anime for you. You should check it out. And I'm like, noted, right? Like, so if anything, the jiu-jitsu didn't really bring us together. The anime did, because we didn't even talk about jiu-jitsu. We hadn't even met in person. The first time we met in person was at Pan's. And at that point, we had decided that we wanted to try this long distance relationship thing. But we totally started off just as friends talking about anime. Nothing about jiu-jitsu, just like, oh, I watched anime. Thanks for the recommendation. Do you have anything more? Like, oh, then he'd send me lists and stuff. And then he'll also say this too. I was the first person to call him, because we used to just message each other back and forth about just dumb stuff. And then I was, after comp training, trying to walk over to Whole Foods, and I was trying to juggle all my stuff and then text at the same time and not get hit by cars. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to call him. And so I video called him through Instagram, and he's like, was this a butt dial? I'm like, no, I meant to call you. And he's like, what does this mean? It's like, it means that I have my hands full and it's easier to talk to you on video.
But is it tech is so weird that it makes it weird to call people now, right? Isn't it? Like,
yeah, right?
It's such a strange time.
Yeah, actually, it's like,
I intentionally butt dial people.
Yeah, and so and then just from there, it just kind of flourished from there.
I'm gonna out him. I'm just gonna out your boyfriend, just so you know. There's always some intent behind. Like, really, am I really going to the stranger on Instagram to ask her for relationship advice without going, I don't know, maybe something happens. Come on,
I have a wise friend, actually my wife's friend, that led to me and my wife meeting. Liz, hi Liz. I'll tell her to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure she watches.
And she used to say that between men and women, there's nothing that's truly platonic. Nothing that's truly 100% platonic. There's always a little room for wiggle.
I don't know if I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I don't know if I can agree either.
But you gotta I guess I from a jiu-jitsu's perspective, I roll with girls that are just like,
Well,
wow, this
that's
girl's
clinical.
about to really put it on me and kick my ass, and it's like we are truly jiu-jitsu friends.
That's a clinical aspect, though, because you're in an environment specific
but
to
then
the fighting.
You said they could never be.
No. In just a personal friendship relationship, it could never be 100% platonic. There's always that dynamic.
What do you think about that, Kristina?
Yeah, a lot of my friends growing up were guys.
Yeah.
So like, and I can be honest, I definitely had friends who were like they are some of my closest best friends, right? And it's maybe at some point someone had admitted like, hey, I have feelings, and I'm like, I don't like you that way, like I really no, like we're really being friends, and then they're like, oh, cool, and like and then we have that friendship. So like once the boundary was set, like there was nothing outside after that anymore. I feel like sometimes like there can be some sort of like curiosity, but then like otherwise it's just like, but a lot of times it's just more of like, no, like I really just want to be friends with you. Like there's absolutely nothing there. I have no ulterior motive. I
think that as a guy, I know that I feel like a woman could be friends. A man, it's more difficult because even if a guy doesn't have feelings for somebody at the beginning, if a woman express interest in a guy that didn't, maybe, oh wow, this could be something, well, I'll try. Okay, yeah, maybe. Like it's easier to turn the guy than it is to turn the girl. A woman could have genuine like, I just want to be your friend, and I do think that. Look, I'm the father of 2 girls, and I'm constantly telling them that all men are horrible. Like, all men are evil. You gotta know that but my oldest daughter, she's lives with her boyfriend. She's 26, lives with her boyfriend, and hopefully they're talking about getting married. And I genuinely like him, but I say that. Not to truly say that all men are horrible. I really just want them to watch out and be very conscious and make really, really good decisions. When I say it very playfully and joking, and inevitably they'll go, well, what about you? And I said, I was horrible. I was horrible. I was horrible to women, and I had, I wasn't the best, but you come to a point where you do fall in love with somebody, and you're like, oh wow, I really want to treat this person really awesome. Like I really want to, and you have to find that person. Guys are just a different beast, and it's just, they don't always have the best of intentions. If they, if you put 10 women and 10 men in a room, I would say that the majority of the men are going to look at the women and go, and the women are just going to be like, hey girls,
rampant hormones.
They just don't. The mind doesn't work the same way. So I guess
rampant hormones, no morals.
Within jiu-jitsu, I mean, I've told this story, so let me kind of say this to address Bo's point. In jiu-jitsu, I will roll with and conversate with the women who approach me first. I feel a little bit strange to be like, I think of it this way, if my wife walked into the gym and saw me talking to a gaggle of women, how is she going to feel about that? Yeah. And I don't ever want jiu-jitsu to be that source of angst for her. So I stick with the guys, and if a woman wants to talk to me or ask me a question, I'm certainly going to talk to her. I'm not just like, oh, yucky girls. But I don't make a point to be like, there are men in the gym that are like, like super chummy with some of the girls. And I'm like, if your wife walked in and saw that, I don't think she's going to take it the way that maybe you intended. She's going to look at that and go, why are you all over this younger woman or older woman, whatever. Yeah. I don't think that she's going to look, and that's the way I feel. So I handle myself in a very specific way. Yeah. If they want to roll with me, great. It's usually going to be somebody who can really probably kick my ass. It's very rare that, a white belt female is going to be like, hey, let's roll. Like 240-pound man, come and roll with me. That just doesn't happen. But I just always think about, if my wife walked into this room right now, walked in to watch me train, what is she going to think about the way that I interact with the women? And it's not to say she's a jealous woman. I'm just very conscious of what my partner could wind up seeing when she gets there. So that's my take on it. And like, again, my female jiu-jitsu relationships are very genuine and they're friendly. Yeah. I love Sophia. She's awesome. There are girls in the class that I will absolutely, I would roll with. They're usually going to, there's one girl that's super freaking tough. that I'm like, I treat her like the guys. I'm like, let's roll. Come on,
Yeah,
Flo. Let's roll.
yeah.
She's the only person I do that with. And again, she's, it's very a friendly relationship. But I don't know. I don't know if you feel differently about that.
No.
That's the way I handle myself, and that's the reason why.
Yeah. And that's totally respectful. Like everybody has their, like, no one knows your relationship other than you and your partner, right? Everyone's relationship is different. Like, I have like a lot of guy friends, but and now that I'm here in this new place, it's kind of like I have to make friends again, right? And mostly everybody's like, either engaged or married or has kids. Like, so I'm like the young one that's like, my boyfriend's all the way over there, so it's kind of hard having to make friends again, right? My boyfriend, like, he has a lot of female friends. And like, so luckily it's really good. Like, I'm not a really jealous person at all. Like, it's like, yeah, they're your friends. Before we were even a thing, they were already your friends. So like, I'm not going to tell you to stop being friends with them. He also has a lot of female students, and it makes sense. He's a smaller guy, right? Like, I'm picking him up for a reason, right? Like, he's like rooster like feather, right? He like walks around like about 130. So we're about the same size.
Oh.
It absolutely makes sense that women feel comfortable training with him. Right.
Yeah.
He is a very good training partner for all of the women there. And he hangs out with them. And I absolutely love that. 1, they trust him. 2, they feel safe with him. 3, they know that they can they can talk with him, and they hang out with groups. And sometimes he's like the only guy, or maybe another guy will come in too. And like some of them are moms too. And he has his son. So like they're all like talking about like parenting advice. And it's like, man, this is like, and I know a lot of those women too. Like, so when I see it, I feel proud. Like, there's no part of me that has to worry like, oh my God, you're hanging out with those girls. Like, no, not at all. Like, I feel proud that I'm in a relationship with someone that can be so trustworthy. And again, as an instructor, again, he's a purple belt and a lot of like these white belts, and he teaches a lot of the classes there, and all the kids, they really, really put their faith in him.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that he's never going to take advantage of that ever. Yeah. And so that makes me feel good. Right. And we talk about this all the time. And sometimes like his friends from like Brazil or Angola, they're like, man, Junior, you change, you're different, like, like which one's your side girl? Like none, like they're my friends. Like, no, but really, he's like, no, really, they're just my friends.
But
like,
you see that? That's the outside. Yeah. That's the outsider's take on it. And I should add that my wife doesn't train jiu-jitsu. She does go to like a kickboxing school. So, but it's not as touchy. Like, she's not sparring. She's like hitting bags. I jokingly call it dance fighting. So like, just to mess with her. So she's hitting bags, and they're doing like kind of like CrossFit without the weights, squats and medicine balls and things like that. So she's not touching people. She understands jiu-jitsu. I've been doing it long enough. I've been with her the entire time I've done jiu-jitsu. So she understands it. But she doesn't understand it the way you understand it as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Like, I'm gonna be sitting on top. You're gonna walk into the room, and I might be sitting on top of somebody. I just passed their guard, and now I'm sitting basically on top of them, and it looks weird to an outsider, but to us, it's like, oh wow, she just passed his guard and she mounted. She's looking at it. I'm not saying she would, but an outsider would look at it as like, why are you sitting on top of that guy, or girl, or why do you have, you're basically, crotch in her face about to do an armbar. Like, it just looks so weird. Yes. It looks weird to an outsider, where we're just like, I've advanced, So I kind of add that to it. She's, as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, in a relationship with another jiu-jitsu practitioner, is easier for you to understand. I don't know that an outsider always comes in and looks at it and goes, "You're about to roll with that girl over." It seems odd to people. So again, I'm very conscious of that. Maybe overly conscious about it, but I just know I just don't want her to ever. Jiu-jitsu is my safe place, is my happy place. I don't ever want it to be a source of tension for my partner, for my wife, to be like, really, you're going there? Is that girl going to be there? Like, that's just never going to happen, because I'm just never going to put myself in that position. Yeah. I handled myself the same way at work. Same way at work. Like, I am not going out with the girls to lunch. Like, I didn't have a work wife. Like we weren't, there wasn't somebody like a female counterpart, because I would just not want my wife to ever, if somebody saw me eating lunch and then in my town and was like, hey, telling my wife, hey, Diana, I saw Milton out at lunch with some girl. What? I'm conscious of that. And again, maybe overly conscious about it, but I just am. And I handle myself the same way with work and jiu-jitsu.
We joke about it a lot. Like they'll be like, does Kristina know about this? And they're like, yeah, or on the phone right now. Like we're literally talking, like, look, she can see everybody. Like, so that's the thing, is like, he doesn't ever have to tell me, like, he never has to check in, but he'll tell me like, hey, I'm gonna go out with the girls this weekend. I'm like, okay, cool, have fun, you know? And I feel like that's more of like, sometimes maybe it's like other people's insecurities too, like maybe because they're used to that, like maybe they're used to like, oh, does they know, or you know? And it's like, well, little do they know that like, dude, we're pretty secure and like we talk all the time, so like there's no surprises. And I feel like that would be really important in any type of relationship, even if it wasn't, if you took jiu-jitsu outside of it too, like you have your friend group, I have my friend group, and you have these friends that you've been friends with before the relationship started, and mine as well too. And they could be guys, they could be girls, or whatever. Like, dude, you're telling me like, hey, I'm gonna be hanging out with some of my friends. I'm like, okay, cool, have fun. You know, like, oh, do they know? I'm like, yeah, I know, you know. And I guess, I don't know, I feel like sometimes people want like that drama, or again, like people watch too many movies or watch too many like Netflix shows are like, oh, the betrayal.
I definitely want my wife to feel really comfortable about it, because every time I come home or she puts on her Netflix, all the movies in the queue are about women killing their husbands or cutting a body part off. And on top of it, she's Ecuadorian, and Lorena Bobbitt was Ecuadorian, and she does not let me forget that. So,
dude, she'll do something with like a chancla, like, right? She'll come in, you're like, what is this? And she'll like a chancla or something. She'll, you know, I feel like that's like a universal. I don't care what generation, whatever. Like, I feel like Latina and like, and then Asian, like if they could be like, we kind of have that, like the chancla or the slipper.
Yeah, luckily mine's Americanized. She grew up in New York, so she's not straight out of the old country. So I'm lucky there because it's a different relationship. Oh, I don't know if I'm lucky or unlucky.
Oh no.
Yeah,
we could have that debate. We could have that debate.
Romanian chicks just pack and leave.
I would imagine, like if I walked into her gym and there was a guy like hugging her or like grabbing her, like, hey, we're buds. I wouldn't like that. And that's, you know, again, so I treat her. Right? Yeah. I treat her like I'm treating her the same way that I feel like I would want to be treated. I don't want to walk into a scenario where, you're out to lunch with, I don't want to get somebody say, hey, I saw Diana with some guy at lunch. Again, we're secure in our relationship. So I'm just saying, it's not like I would be like, oh, we're divorced. It would be just like, oh, that's, hey, let me know you're going out with somebody, or, again, I would just never put myself, not that I have never gone out to lunch with a, with a female counterpart, but I kind of feel like I'm not going to put myself in the position. Again, I'm not like, women, stay away from me. All the women want me, and you must stay away. It's not like that. It's just a matter of comfort and making my partner feel comfortable. Again, it's a very unique sport where I'll point back to that page I mentioned earlier, Students of BJJ. He put out something, again, he's been putting out these memes that were like very specific about the untold parts of jiu-jitsu. And it was just like, again, welcome to jiu-jitsu. We apologize for like the sexual nature of these moves, like that they look like these sexual positions. Like, we apologize now. But I mean, it is just the nature of what we do. But again, once you do it, she has come to see me roll, and she's seen me roll with women, and it's like, she doesn't even react to it. She's probably she's looking up, and then she's on her phone on Instagram herself. She's just doing her own thing. So, listen. Let me jump into some of these listener questions, because we had three good questions that I wanted to ask you. So we had his handle is on Instagram is Otis Linkman. How does Kristina overcome plateauing or stagnation in jiu-jitsu?
All right. So, and this is a tough one too, because everyone has their own different way of going about it, right? It's kind of like the same idea of like insanity. It's like doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So if you feel like, man, I got like a plateau, that means something needs to change. Either maybe your approach to position, or maybe learning something outside of your comfort zone. Anytime that I feel like I plateau, it's not even necessarily about the actual progress that I'm having. It's more of like my relationship and the drive behind why I'm training what I'm training, right? Because wherever you are interested and wherever you feel excited, to learn is where you're going to progress. So if at a certain point you get to one place and you're like, man, like, I want to say this does this spark joy, right? You're like Marie Kondo's is like,
I
does
know
this
where
spark
that comes
joy,
from.
right? Yeah. And you're like, man, it doesn't. You're like, okay, then we have to do something differently, right? It's like, it's not so much that you have to train harder, or you have to, go to more seminars or look up more DVDs or instructionals. It's like, actually a lot of it, it's like, it's more inwards. It's like, man, why am I doing this? If you can understand, like, okay, what is the next goal for me? Or even just having little goals, because regardless of if we see it or not, every single day we're making some sort of progression, but it's not that obvious. And there are going to be times where it's happening a lot slower than we would like, and a lot slower than we're able to notice, right? So if you mentally feel like, man, I'm hitting a wall, I'm not getting any better, one, address, like, is that the actual truth? And two, like, okay, what can I do differently that can challenge myself in a way that will excite me, right? Again, because once you have a little bit of like that spark, it's easy to follow that through. So learning a new position, learning something unfamiliar, working from places that have given you trouble, or trying to make something better that you already do. Like, this is actually something that these are questions I ask when people ask for private lessons with me. And I ask them, okay, is there something that's specific that you want to work on? And they'll ask me, what do you think I should work on? I'm like, I'm not you, like, you're the one in control of this lesson. I am here to serve you. So if you don't have anything in mind, let's answer these few questions. Would you want to work on something that you're already good at and you want to give yourself more options? Do you want to give more variety? Do you want to make this even better? Do you want to work on something that you lack in? So how to prevent these positions, or how to get better, or in general, like, make that stronger? Or do you want to learn something altogether brand new? Like, do you just want something not bad, not good, just something new? And then from there, then we can work on something and give a plan. Because again, it's not, with private lessons, like, you don't want to just go in and just learn something new and you can't use it. So if you can approach every lesson or every time that you're going to train, like, answering those questions, I'm like, what do I want to achieve today? Like, do I want to try something new? Do I want to make something better that I'm already good at? Or do I want to improve on something that I'm lacking in? Those three questions can help you through a lot of stuff. And again, plateau isn't necessarily, again, the technical. Sometimes, again, it's also the mental and the emotional state that you're in too. So if you feel also outside of jiu-jitsu, if you look at your outside life, look at what the stressors are there too that are causing you to feel that way. Because a lot of times when we feel plateau, it's not even the jiu-jitsu, it's other stuff. And we're just kind of shouldering it.
So I think about this question a lot because I felt this way. So first I'd say, congratulations, Otis. You're feeling the way that you're probably supposed to be feeling. We've all felt that. It happened to all of us. And then, like you said, like, you've got to find out the source of that. But welcome to jiu-jitsu. It's going to happen. So it's okay. It's like, don't be in a place where you feel like you have to quit because you don't think you're going to learn it. You have not learned all the jiu-jitsu. Like, there is going to be a way to overcome this. The second part of what I wanted to say was, I've used something very specific to get through those times when it really is just about, like, wow, I'm just like, I need to find something new. Like you just said, like, do you want to work on things you're already good at, or should you start finding other things that are going to excite you again? I've used, and I'm sure there are others out there, this is just the one that I used, Jason Scully. He has these awesome videos that date back to the kind of early 2000s where he does 53 armbar or leg locks in 5 minutes, 63, leg entries, whatever, or guard passes or sweeps. He's got tons of these videos, and they're not instructionals. They are just back to back to back cuts of him doing different moves. And I've used those since I was a white belt to go, I would watch them over and over, and I still do it to this day. I watch them and I go, oh, look, I'm always in that position. I didn't know that was there. Let me work on that today. Let me introduce that into this. Like, I love the north-south, and I love finding little things that go, oh, failed north-south, and you go here and you do this thing. Or every once in a while, again, sweeps, I'll be like, man, I'm just let me go back to the basics, and I'll watch one of his videos and I'll go, oh, let me pull that flower sweep, or let me do this. This scissor sweep is perfect. I'm going to try, and I'll actually go to the gym and make it my mission to try to do that day. But I'll pick out of the 63, I can find probably a handful that I go, I used to do that, or I'm going to try that because I've never done it. So that's how I've helped myself get out of those times when I felt like really stagnated or like, man, I'm plateauing. And the last thing I'll say about it is we have to remember that a lot of times when we're training with the same people, we're both getting better at the same pace. And you feel like because you're maybe not getting better than somebody that you've plateaued. Believe me, you're not. Every day that you've gone in, you got a little bit better. Sometimes that's when when you feel plateaued. That's when you grab a new white belt, and you start really not beating them up, but implementing some of the things and remembering, like, oh wow, look at me, compare yourself to the white belt you, or the you a week or a month before, not to just like, oh, the guy that I'm normally doing really well against and now I'm not doing as well. Because maybe somebody's getting better than you a little bit more quickly, but you are always getting better. You just don't see. You kind of said this before.
Yeah.
You just don't see it because you're in it. It's like watching paint dry. The paint is drying, but you couldn't really go, oh, look, or grass grow is a good example. Like, you're not just you can't watch the grass grow. It's like if you just stared at it, it'll look like it's never growing, but it is getting higher and higher and growing and growing. And that's the same with your jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, 100%. You know, sometimes it's just we kind of have to step back a little bit and like really give ourselves more credit, you know, than we actually are. So it's really hard. It's really easy for us to be very hard on ourselves. I'm like, man, I'm not doing anything. I'm doing the same damn thing. And I'm like, but you're not, you know, like, and if you are, that means you're kind of laying back into a comfort zone. So let's step out of that. Let's step out of that comfort zone. But like all good sayings, like nothing grows in the comfort zone, right? So step out of it a little bit. Like, we're not asking you to start doing like flying crazy acrobatic stuff, but maybe something different. Like, one of my teammates back home, Vitor, he also does like these videos. He calls them 1 minute seminars. Okay. And just for 1 minute, he'll just show like a bunch of attacks from like a guard. And like, these are great because it's just like, it's especially nowadays with social media, it's all about what can be easily consumed, right? And you could watch it and like, man, people watch it over and over and over because it's only a minute. And same thing, you'll be watching it and you'll be like, oh wow, I never even thought about that. Like, oh, that's super cool. What did he do there? And that encourages us to be, instead of just having someone to teach us, but we teach ourselves. And this is like a very organic, creative way. Like, think of, again, like how you said, drawing back to when we were white belts. When we were white belts, everything is new and exciting. Wow, Disney movie, wow, right? Yeah, like, you know, cue in Magic Carpet, Aladdin and Jasmine, right. A whole new world, right? So like everything is magical, and like, and it's like when we feel plateaued, it's kind of like we've lost sense of that magic. Yeah. And so tap into it, you know, like just be a kid again, and like don't think about jiu-jitsu as I have to accomplish something or else I'm no good. It's like, man, you just gotta have to find a new game to play, find a new toy to play with, because at the end of the day, jiu-jitsu is still a game. You are playing. It's human playing. Like, who was I explaining this to? That like a lot of the stuff that adults do nowadays, like when we have hobbies, like that's our way of play, and we need that. We need that, absolutely. So give yourself that opportunity to be having sparkly eyes, woo, right?
And again, we've all been there. It happens to everybody, so don't think that you're an outlier. Like it's happening to all of us. We interviewed Robert Drysdale a couple of months ago, and he said just blatantly, I was awful at jiu-jitsu. You know, so no, we're like, you don't, like the guys that we're looking at and the Gordon Ryans, they didn't just start like day one and were awesome. They had to work at it, and you will too. You know, so
yes. All
right. So our next question comes from Gemma Fiorenza. This is actually Gemma was we awarded her a scholarship, a 1-year scholarship a few years ago, awesome. And we paid for her jiu-jitsu for a year. So her handle is Jiu-Jitsu Unicorn on Instagram. And she says, I don't know if you started when you were young. She's, I think she's maybe like 11 or 12 right now. Says, I don't know if you started when you were young, but do you find any advantage to fighting boys, even if they're bigger and stronger? And most of her competitions are against, you know, 'cause she does a lot of like local, you know, new breeds and things like that. She's almost always fighting boys. So, you know, thoughts there?
Well, I didn't start when I was young. I mean, 21 is still young, but it's not a child. Like, I'm an adult. I started when I was an adult at 21. She's 11, 12.
I think she's 11 or 12 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, it's gonna get difficult. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that at all. Well, teenage boys are starting to tap into their teenage boy strength, right? Absolutely, it can be valuable. Absolutely, there's something to learn. But if you are at risk of getting hurt, if you're at risk of putting yourself in danger, because again, they also as growing boys haven't learned how strong they are. They don't know that they're coming in their strength. And also, I hate to say it, but we want to teach all children, especially young boys, to hey, don't be bullies. Don't be, it's not always about winning. And girls are supposed to be equals too, but that's not how it always is. And sometimes some boys will see another girl or see a girl right across from them, and they feel this obligation that they have to win, And so if you feel like you are in a healthy mindset where you're you know what, I'm game, I'm confident, you can't touch me. And even if it is a rough role, your perception of me or whatever, that has nothing to do with me, because your progression is all up to you, right? But if you feel man, this person has intent to they really just want to use me as a proving point, you don't have to go in, because you're not there to be anybody's punching bag. You are there to make yourself better. You're there to make the best version of you. So compete if you feel comfortable, compete if you want that challenge. But at any point you feel this is too much, by all means, it's okay to say no to those matches, because you need to practice those boundaries. 100%.
Some of my favorite videos on Instagram and online, period, are when there's a little girl that beats a little boy. I don't. As the father of 2 girls, I just take a lot of pride. I love seeing that. As a father of 2 girls that don't train, again, I started late in life.
I mean, I wish that was my daughter.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. What both say, me going, oh man, I wish that my daughters would have trained. They're both, 117 going away to college.
While you're sleeping at night, all nice and cozy in your bed, they're beating the crap out of boys somewhere in bars.
At some bar somewhere. Yeah.
Throwing the windows.
I love those videos, and it just makes me feel proud as the father of girls.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, it makes me proud too.
Especially if the little boy cries. So
that's because they're butthurt for their ego.
A lot of it is not even the boys. It's I feel sometimes it's the coaches. Coaches very rarely, but sometimes it's the parents. I've heard some really awful things from parents on the sidelines, yelling at their boys going up against girls, and I'm just
yeah.
Why are you saying that? Dude, eject this guy.
Kill her. Kill the girl.
I had one where this boy was one, he was already afraid to compete. 2, he was super nervous. He's competing against a girl, and then his dad's just screaming at him, just being a total jerk to his son. And and then the girl wins, and and it had the girl didn't she was also very aware that oh man, he's having a hard day, right?
Yeah.
But she did her thing, she won, and then he's crying, and then this dad's oh, come on, you're gonna let a girl do that to you? Just get out there, come on, having a freaking vein out. I'm dude, I'm talking, I'm someone needs to escort this guy out.
I just imagine what the home life is like. The home life for that's got to be, that spills over from the way he is at home. I could imagine how that
dad's drinking bourbon and the kid's drinking soy milk.
Yeah.
Your kid's trying really hard. I'm dude, why don't you get on the mat? Why don't you try to fight someone also doing the same thing? I bet you it's not, and telling you right now, it's not as easy as you're trying to make it seem. All this pressure you're putting on your kid, so all power to the Jiu-Jitsu Unicorn.
Yes,
all power to you for if you're going out there and you're fighting boys. That is a big obstacle, because a lot of people are going to count you out just because of who you are, and you can show them different, but you have nothing to prove, because regardless of if you win, you lose, if you decide to fight them or not, you don't lose your value.
We love you, Gemma. Keep it up. She's a beast out there.
Crush every boy you went.
Crush every boy. Take their tears.
Yeah, bottle them, drink them later, right?
Follow them. It's powered.
So our last question is from Melinda Sands-Long. She says, can you ask her what her dream match would be? Who would you love to fight that you haven't fought?
Who would I love to fight who I haven't fought? Oh man.
Or maybe let's kind of think of it in just like maybe somebody famous that you'd love to to have a match with. It doesn't necessarily have to, dead or alive. Who would you like to speak to, dead or alive?
Gamma.
Oh my goodness.
Who would you love to get out there on the mats with?
Oh, I've never thought about it because it's just like I love competing and I'm very competitive by nature, but I don't seek out competition in that way. I never I will say I've just become a really big fan of just supporting whoever's on the mat. I just love watching people fight.
Yeah.
Especially women.
I'm kind of when I
you want to beat up Eddie Bravo. That's what it is.
I watch a lot of MMA. I was a UFC fan before a boxing and UFC fan before I ever got on the mat to train jiu-jitsu. So I tell people all the time, and for some people they have to love or hate a fighter. I love watching just people fight. I have fighters that I don't like, but I never really go into a fight and be like, yeah, I want my fighter to win. It's not I don't gamble on it. So I'm not and it's almost like with every sport, because I don't watch a lot of other sports, but I'm usually rooting for number one, the underdog is usually going to be my favorite and the one that I'm going to root for. And sometimes that changes within just the match. I might be rooting for one guy and then he's beating the shit out of him. And then I'm and then the guy comes back and I'm cheering for him. I like to see great matches and really great fights. I don't usually go into it oh, that's my fighter. I do have fighters that I don't like, and it's usually the guys with the big mouths. I'm not a Mayweather fan. I'm not a Conor McGregor fan. It's because they talk too much. But for me, it's the underdog. Is who I'm going to usually root for. But again, throw that question back to you. Anybody that you could think of?
I don't know. I mean, I won't say. Not really, but sometimes I am curious. I wonder how I would do in a jiu-jitsu match versus an MMA fighter, someone who's in the UFC. No one specific, but I always think about these things. Man, how would it be to
Ronda
oh my god! I think I met her once at it was an award, an MMA award show or whatever, and I was just waiting to take a photo with her, but I was too shy to ask. And then I was waiting in line, and then all these people kept cutting in front, and eventually she saw me. She's like, "Do you want a picture with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Come on.
Oh, that's super cool.
Bring it in. I'm
That's cool. She's a pro.
Yeah,
man.
right.
She's a pro.
I feel like not even necessarily now, but I feel younger version of me or even lower belt version of me would definitely like to fight people who have lost against. I want to avenge myself. And it's and a lot of them is man, I keep losing.
You want
I
the
keep
rematch.
losing to certain people. Things up I wouldn't say oh, I want to fight Jazari right now. I've always lost to Jazari, but Jazari is always going to be one of those where I always looked up to her, and so it's just but more than anything, I just really like watching her fight. Or she again I feel a lot of them have been my friends. We're all friends now. Since we all just kind of came up think each other. I was man, I feel I lost to this person and I want to fight them again, right? Was there I think she moved too. And I don't even think she competes as much, but a lot of my opponents who I've lost to before, I would love to be able to fight again. I feel for as long as I was healthy.
Jiu-jitsu is so crazy. You said I fought her and now we're friends, right? That's so crazy about jiu-jitsu. I don't think people truly realize it. It's not I guess MMA is like that as well, but it's not like other sports where you have to be rivals. You could like somebody. I mean, the Rotolo brothers had to fight in IBJJF the other day, right? They fought each other it was a great match, and it was in the beginning. I was are they going to take it easy on each other here? Is one guy going to let
cut in?
Yeah, then they went at it. Jiu-jitsu is really strange like that. You can fight, choke somebody out, hear them gurgle and then go have a beer or go have, your after competition meal,
I mean, that's pretty much how Aaron Hurley and I became best friends. Like we were the only purple belt females that signed up for this tournament, and we fought each other twice. We did the weight division and the absolute, and we fought each other twice. And then after that, we were like, okay, besties. Okay. Yeah. Besties. And we've literally been best friends ever since. Like we just fought each other, and what's funny is like we have always known who each other were, before, but like we had never lined up either belt or weight division, right? Like when we were both blue belts, I was a featherweight and she was like a lightweight, or then I became a purple belt, and then she was still a blue belt, and she was a feather, and then there was that split second where we were both purple, and then we signed up, I think we both signed up for lightweight at this tournament. I don't think we did feather, and then I got promoted to brown belt right after. So it's just like, oh no, and I think even before fighting, we had talked once. It was like at like a Vegas Open or something like that, and I'd asked her, was like, because I'd always seen her fight, and I'm like, oh man, like I wonder if I'm ever gonna have to fight her. Like she looks really tough, I'm like a little silly. I was like, she looks really tough. I wonder if I'm ever gonna have to fight her. And then I remember talking with her like after she competed, and we were just sitting in the bleachers. I'm like, you don't ever do feather? She's like, no, like I have a hard time. I do lightweight. I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, I'm talking to you. Like, I just feel like we're like the same size. And I'm just surprised that we haven't fought each other. I just thought for sure that we'd be in the same weight class. It's like, no, yeah. And then, then when we're both purple belts and we fight each other, and I'm like, oh, it's finally happening. Like I was like, man, I wonder if I'm ever going to have to fight her. I'm like, I guess I should have to fight her, right? She looks really tough. She looks really bendy like me.
We liked having her on the show. She was fun. And
yeah.
she was.
I like you so much. I just want to kick your ass.
About, you remember?
Yeah.
Right? We had her.
I like you so much. I want to fight you, man.
That's the way jiu-jitsu is. Like, let's choke each other out and then go have wings.
Choke each other out. Yeah, I don't like being enemies with anybody. I don't like having drama. And then there's no reason why I would disrespect any of my opponents, because it's like they're just such good people. I don't have to agree with everything, but like I do know, like on a character level, like these are good people, Cool. And so I don't know. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna jump into our speed round, and we're gonna wrap things up. Okay, so you can elaborate as much as you want, or just one word answers, or elaborate. It's completely up to you. So my first question is usually gi or no gi. We've established that already, but let's say takedown or pull guard. Preference?
Definitely pull guard, but I absolutely love training takedowns.
Okay.
I love judo. I like, and that's one of the things I miss, is that I haven't been able to train judo in a really long time. But I love learning judo just for judo. Like I don't like learning it for jiu-jitsu. I just like learning judo as its own art form. Mm-hmm. But I absolutely love teaching it too. So I love like teaching like basic judo for jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. But I'm still going to pull guard all day, every day. Maybe I'll fake a guard pull to a low ankle pickle to a double leg, okay. Nice too. I will not shy away from being on my feet, but I am definitely a butt scooter.
Cool. Me too. We established that one before too.
Yeah.
What is your ultimate goal in the world of jiu-jitsu?
Ultimate goal in the world of jiu-jitsu, I feel like, would be to leave a really good legacy, not necessarily with my name and how I've competed, but I really want to be able to set up like some sort of like community. I kind of already did it with my Inspire Women's Open Mats, but eventually, again, there was always the big plan to have my own school, but even outside of the school is like, I just want to have that legacy of like everyone taking care of each other, right? Empowering each other, whether that's for like women empowerment or mental health awareness. Like I really want to leave my mark in a way, and either that's like, again, either in a school or an NPO or however the way, an organization or just a series of events where that can just continually being cultivated. And that habit take its life of its own. Like
you're doing something with girls and gis, is that? You posted something that we reposted.
Yeah, I partner with them quite often. I love everything that they're about. I used to have my own women's open mat too, which is called Inspire, but like COVID, and then all the hustle of always having to travel to make money, was super hard to do these events. Now that I'm solid and I can grow roots, I'd like to be able to bring those back again. But until then, I'm all about just supporting women's events. Like you have like the role models, grappling camp, girls in gis, girls don gi. What I do, like chicks and jits, I think was in Canada. Anything that there's some sort of women's event, or even like working with Erin Hurley with Submit the Stigma, any chance that I can use jiu-jitsu to like make the community better, like that's the big dream. Like make an impact with jiu-jitsu as a tool, but knowing that I made something better just by caring and just by having the passion for it. I don't necessarily need to be, it helps I'm good at jiu-jitsu, but I don't necessarily need to be known for being good at jiu-jitsu as much as I would really like to be known for being someone who cared and helped make other people's lives better.
And are you still traveling for seminars? No, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. My bad. Are you still traveling for seminars? How can people reach out to you if they wanted to book a seminar?
I mean, like Instagram is super easy. You can, drop in the old DMs, or you can always just send me an email. Yeah,
work for her boyfriend.
or just email Kristina@kbjujitsu.com. But I'm really responsive on either Facebook or Instagram. Email too, but sometimes like emails will go to my spam and I won't see it, and I'm like, oh no. But yes, I will still travel for seminars because I really like doing that. I love as much as I love like the empowerment camps, I also still love leading competition camps too, because I love competing and I love everything about competing. And I want to be I like helping people reach their goals, like their competition goals, and using all of my experience to help them get there. Like, you don't have to do it my way, but let's give you some avenues to like get you where you want to be, and do it healthfully too. Again, like keeping in mind recovery, keeping in mind mental health, keeping in mind mental training, not just the jiu-jitsu, but everything, the whole package.
Okay, awesome. So I really like this question, and I mean we usually get answers all over the map. But if you could go back in time and talk to yourself before the very first time you got on the jiu-jitsu mats, what would you tell yourself?
Don't invert so much. No. What would I tell myself? Man, like white belt me was a knucklehead and was really just down for anything and everything. I would tell white belt me that like you're gonna probably get some results pretty quickly, but don't let the results dictate your character and your value as a person. I didn't address that issue until I was a purple belt, and I almost quit jiu-jitsu, like at least competitively. I almost quit as a purple belt because my value was so heavily tied to my results as an athlete. And white belt me was like, again, was just too, I don't want to say cocky, but was just too much of a knucklehead to know of like again, just kind of like in denial, like I don't need to, I'm not weak, I'm strong, I'm not afraid, I don't have anxiety issues, I don't, like completely denying that I had these emotions that were clearly there, and convincing myself that I just need to push through it, be a tough guy, and shut up and train. Otherwise, I'm not going to be important anymore, and people aren't going to want to train with me, and my professors aren't going to want to work with me, and I'm just going to be a waste of time and waste of space. I would definitely tell white belt me to not let those results get to the head, both wins and losses. Like, don't let that define who you're going to be as a person, because you're more than just an athlete. You're going to be more than those wins. You're going to be more than those losses, and you're even going to be more than what your jiu-jitsu is. Right? The jiu-jitsu is just a tool. It's not going to define who you are. You're not a good person just because you're good at jiu-jitsu, and you're not going to be a loser because you lost a match, So definitely that's what I'm telling white belt me.
Do you have any regrets? You have anything else that you would have absolutely done differently? So, man, I just wish I didn't do that, or take that match, or go to that event.
No, I actually don't have any regrets. I mean, would I say like, man, I wish I did this sooner. I wish I listened. And I'm like, but the thing is, like, even if I listened at the time that someone gave me whatever advice, would I even have the maturity to exactly? Yeah. would I have had the ability to even understand or even appreciate it? So like, I don't have any regrets. I'd say I've had a lot of good things happen to me. Would I have taken seriously, like more seriously, like the recovery and like, or at least not training myself ragged and like listening to my body more? Definitely, you know. And again, that was more of like more of this and less. It wasn't about me not being strong enough. It wasn't about me not being tough enough. It was about me not wanting to admit that I was scared, or me not admitting that if I can't be enough, like everyone's into the Encanto soundtrack, you know,
my wife,
and everyone's singing like, we don't talk about Bruno. All the kids right now, we don't talk about Bruno and surface pressure. And so now I'm thinking about like, I hear the surface pressure song. I'm like, oh my God, why is it speaking to me?
I fell asleep.
Like all this pressure.
I fell asleep about 10 minutes into the movie. My wife was sitting on kind of the couch, kind of in front of me a little bit. So she didn't see me fall asleep, but I woke up right at the end. So I haven't seen it, but I know the soundtrack because she's definitely a fan.
No, first time I watched it, I was like, this didn't have the oomph I thought it was gonna have. And then like second, third, fourth, and now it's just can't get it out of my head. But like, no regrets. I think I learned things when I was supposed to learn them, whether it was the hard way or the easy way. The lessons were learned and they completely shaped. I think if something was done differently, who knows if I would even be in the position I am now. Definitely no regrets.
Okay. Now I have high hopes for the answer on this last question. I like super, super high hopes as a lover of the gi. Do you or do you not wash your belt? No, the reaction already. I know where this is going. No, please. Say it isn't so.
No, I don't wash my belt, but I also don't leave it anywhere gross. I do let it sit out in the sun. I do let it dry out, but I don't wash my belt. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
This interview is going so well.
I wash everything else. I wash everything else. I take showers, but no. And the thing is, it's like I don't know. Like I don't even say it's like even just. Maybe when I was like a white belt, I washed my belt all the time as a white belt. And then it's not even about like, oh, you washed off the juju. I guess at some point it stopped being a habit, but I also never made it a habit to just stuff it and leave it somewhere to get soggy or rancid.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I always leave it out in the sun to dry out.
Well, this went south quickly, Bo. So
nice
having you.
I'm gonna give you. Yeah, great. Bye. See you later.
Bring in Lysol. Can I just Lysol it? Would that be better?
I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna speak to the Kristina, the content creator. Which again, I said before, your content is awesome. Do a video about washing your belt and watch how much just how many comments you get. Somebody told we've got 2 of our most watched videos on TikTok are wash your belt related. Just me simply putting my belt into the wash. That's the video. And then Miguel did a really funny one. It's kind of hilarious about like at the end of the video, he's in the bathtub in his no-gi equipment, washing his belt and playing with like a rubber ducky. It's really funny. But yeah, we had a guest on that said he's like I wash it once a month and every month I videotape it and I put it on my YouTube channel, and he's like, you should just see the comments go crazy. It's hilarious. I experienced the same thing. I'm still getting comments on older videos that have to do with washing your belt. So I'll just leave it there. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I'm not judging you, but I feel kind of judged right now. I thought this was a safe place.
You feel like I'm totally judging you.
This was supposed to be completely, non-downer, all upbeat and motivational.
Completely
happy.
Judging you. Wait till you see the stuff we put on the screen when you say you don't wash your belt, just like the extra stuff that we're gonna put.
Yes.
Skull and crossbones, smelly, the smelly emoji.
Okay. I brush my teeth. I wash my gi. I take showers. I don't have any funk. It's belt.
Listen, I don't even have a belt, so.
I'm also thinking too. I don't even know if my black belt now would even survive the wash because it's so beat up. It's like it's not even. I'll have kids like when I go to like visiting schools and they're like, "What belt is that?"
Yeah, it's a gray belt.
It's a fuzzy gray.
They're like, "It looks like a zebra."
It's a fuzzy gray belt. It's in between blue belt or purple or brown and black. That's it.
All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna leave that one there. But Kristina, do you have anybody you want to shout out? Any sponsors? This is your time. Feel
Always
free.
a big shout out to Control Industries. Like they've been supporting me since day one. Like since they started in 2011, and they're like, hey, and I was one of the first athletes. Like they are awesome. Small business too. Like I'm really big. Like I love supporting small businesses, and like they're just mom and pop or family in Arizona. They also are native too, so that's really cool that they like tying in like cultural significance, like either their own culture or other people's like indigenous culture into the brand. And their stuff is pretty cool. I'm gonna say like they always have really nice stuff, so always check them out. And then Virus International, like it's like all my like workout gear, my spats, my joggers, I'm wearing my joggers right now. Everything is from there, and it's like really, really, really good workout stuff. Like I swear you can put this stuff on, and I'm not saying this just because I'm sponsored by them, but I would say this like even when I first discovered the brand, I was like, man, I feel like a superhero. Like I feel like I'm just gonna like
Listen, anytime I feel like I don't I don't know if I want to train, just stop putting your stuff on. And like look at yourself in the mirror, like put on your nogi, put on your rash guard underneath your gi or whatever. You start to put the stuff on, you're just like, all right, I'm feeling it. It's like you're putting on your armor. It happens to me all the time. Like I'm so tired, and I always wear a rash guard under my gi, and I put my rash guard on, and I'm like, yeah, let's go fuck some people out.
Yeah, dude, look good, feel good, fight good. Yeah, so
and having cool gear that you like and that fits well, it really does help too.
Dude, their stuff is like super high techy too. I swear, it's like the spaceship of like I put something on and it has like all this technology in it that's like compression and cooling and
that's awesome.
And I get it, and it just looks really nice. So you always check them out, and you can use my little code to get a little discount, something KBJJ10 on any of your purchases. And they usually have sales going on too, and sometimes you can even put that in conjunction and get more free stuff. But definitely always check them out. And they always have really cool stuff. So like between Control and Virus, like I'm always just looking super good. Cool. Unless I'm like wearing like my professor stuff with like this, I just got this in the mail. I'm like, oh my God, it's so cozy. And like it's cold in Florida. Like it's like 30 something degrees here, and I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. I signed up for warm weather all the time because I'm in Florida.
I have never worn a sweater on the show, and I'm wearing because it's cold down here. We're in Miami. We're like at the entrance of Biscayne, and it's really cold down here. Bo let me keep my sneakers on today in the studio. Bo's like, you can wear your sneakers in the studio today. Because it's that cold. So it's chilly here. This is not normal. Like I'm usually in shorts and a t-shirt. But it's chilly down here. We're below 50, which is bad. I'm sure. And you're in North Florida. So what is it there? Is it in the 30s? It's not in the 30s today, is it?
It was in the 30s. That was this morning. So now it's a nice 48, 49. Okay. It just changed.
Yeah.
But and like you're looking outside and it's sunny, not a cloud sky. I'm like, dude, that sun is a freaking lie. It's a lie.
But you know what? The funny thing about Florida is that it's
2 days.
It'll be a couple of days or sometimes a couple of weeks that'll be really bad. Usually around this time, and then we'll be fine.
I always joke that it's winter week.
Yeah.
It's
winter week.
I'm like, I love it because I get to break out like my long sleeve stuff and my sweaters, and it's like so short lived.
We had one day. It was like a Wednesday. I was like, walking the dog, taking the garbage out. And I'm like, wow, it's kind of warm. Wow, kind of warmed up. Nice. It's probably going to be really warm tomorrow. And then freeze warning. Drop down to like 29. I'm like, what the heck just happened? It was like super warm last night, and now we're in the 20s. Make it make sense.
It definitely makes you appreciate when it gets warm, though. Like I'm from New York originally. Bo's from New York originally, so we know what cold is up there. And then I went to school in upstate New York for a little while. That's cold, like 2 feet of snow on the ground because it's just been snowing like every week, and I don't miss that. This is
I'm tiny Asian, tiny brown Asian girl. Nothing about this
says cold or snow.
It says cold weather. No, I genetically not designed for cold weather at all. There's nothing on me. That's just skin that hurts, right?
You'll get through this. You'll be fine. It's gonna be. Give it a couple of weeks and it'll be back to normal.
Yeah.
It'll be hot. Then you'll be like, God, it's so freaking hot. It's like I'm sweating. Oh my God,
Monday.
the AC went.
Monday. It'll be like that. Monday it'll be 78 degrees again.
Kristina, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much for doing this. I told you stick around for 1 second. We're gonna say goodbye though. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on. I had a ball. We went 2.5 hours almost. I just realizing how long we went. It's like one of our longest episodes, I think. But I had a ball. And any time where I write down a whole bunch of questions before every podcast, anytime that I don't ask most of the questions other than the speed round at the end, that means it was a good podcast. If we're just talking, it's great. So thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this. We'll put this out probably next week, like Wednesday, Thursday. I'll tag you and let you know that we launched. So again, appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. She's awesome, right?
Super cool, man.
Wow. And that was that was one of our longest podcasts. I've got us clocked at let me see, at 2 hours and 28 minutes.
That's because she really knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, and she's fun. She's got a lot of information. She's fun to listen to. She's got a great take, not only just, a great jiu-jitsu practitioner, but, she's got the, you get that female voice. We have so many, male guests and male competitors on the show that it's great to, to get that other side of the coin, essentially, right? You get a different voice, a different opinion to some of the same questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, hey, guys, we want to shout out.
She definitely helps raise awareness. Anyway, I just stuck in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really stuck that in there.
Okay, so I got a voodoo. That's funny that you did that. I got a voodoo. You didn't. That wasn't planned.
That was not planned.
Shout out to Raise. I got some emails to answer from them. I've been waiting just to put out some content and put out some stuff for Raise. I really do love the drinks. Every time I have one, this one tastes really like an orange drink, like a almost like a Gatorade, but you're getting the energy out of it. So cool. I really love them. They've been great. Hopefully they'll be doing some more stuff with us.
I honestly think they're better than coffee. You
know what?
Coffee will crash you at the end.
You know what? You know what I have in here?
What?
They sent us a bunch of packets of like
sperm.
of what? You ruined my last Raise shout out with farting.
Awareness,
Now you've ruined it with sperm. This is they're not going to want to work with us. This one has like an energy powder in it.
Oh, okay.
So because there's not a ton in here, not a ton of water in here, I use just like a quarter of the package. It's great. I haven't had a coffee. I haven't had a coffee all day.
Is that also from Raise?
Not the container,
okay.
but I filled it with they're the containers of powder that they sent us. Do you remember that we got that huge bag of powder? It's all like pre-workout kind of stuff. So
nice.
they, funny enough, and I don't think it's in the package, but I saw it online. They actually have a powder to help you go to sleep, which with like Fight Back CBD with the nighttime the CBD. I love and need that help. So I'm going to check that one out as well. But this one, actually, I couldn't drink this during the show. I couldn't have them both.
They help
it's like energy drink and energy
then
drink.
They help level you. They should call the other one level.
Legit, this is one that I've been drinking during the show.
He's legitimately drinking.
You know what? It tastes like almost like without the fizz. It tastes like an orange soda.
That's good.
It tastes kind of like my memories of like Sunkist soda.
Yeah, it's not the typical energy drink.
Raise, check them out. Let them know the dummy sent you. So this one again, I have this one will be for the ride home, but I didn't want to knock
the competition, but it tastes like gasoline that's carbonated.
I said it on the last episode. I've never had an energy drink that actually had different fruit flavors.
It's like a beverage.
It's just always like
beverage.
Red Bull or Monsters. That's what I drank, and it's just kind of like kind of the same taste. Let's get our shout outs done for our Patreon sponsors. They include Carlson Gracie Winterhaven in Winterhaven, Florida, cgwinterhaven.com, and at Carlson Gracie _Winterhaven on Instagram. We've also got Big J down in Carlson Gracie Broward County in North Lauderdale, carlsongraciebrowardcounty.com, and at Carlson Gracie Broward County. By the way, right, Big J from Carlson Gracie is partners with Rashad Evans.
Yep.
in the new Blackzilians, right? Bringing the Blackzilians back. Rashad won last night. He won his fight.
Oh, sweet.
Yes, he won his fight. Eagle FC. He won.
Applause
I didn't see
for
the. I know that he
Rashad.
won. I haven't seen the whole fight yet. I'll find it. I got to dig it out. I'm sure I'll see some highlights. But he won. And funny enough, there were a couple of comments like, "What is he doing? He's doing it for the money. He's going to get his ass knocked out." I had a couple of comments. I have replied to those comments now. One guy says $20 says he gets his head knocked off. I replied to that guy, would you like to Venmo me your $20?
Cash out, bro.
Shout out to Rashad. Congratulations, man.
Nice, sweet.
We thank you guys for coming on the show and giving us the opportunity to break that news that they were coming back. So
That was awesome. Yep.
Hope to have you guys back on soon.
Yeah, because now they got to talk about what's going. This is a huge leap forward now.
Yeah, this is a great stepping stone for
winning
the
helps
Brazilians.
move the cause.
They've got some other guys coming out, so they've been posting about some of their other kind of teammates that are going to be fighting.
Sweet.
Greg Hardy, who was going to fight in the UFC, right? Alexei Oleinik pulled out of the fight.
Right.
Then he broke. I think he broke his finger. Greg Hardy injured his finger, so they gave him a replacement to fight. So Greg was going to fight a replacement.
Okay.
And then he wound up fucking up his finger, so then he had to pull out of the fight. So he didn't fight. So hopefully he'll have that battle with.
Was that a typing incident? Typing injury?
No. They have not pointed it out in a video, but I was watching a Blackzilians promo video from recent. And I could see him get his finger caught in something. And I'm wondering if that's the exact moment. I don't know if they realize they have it on film. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
If the guy that's cutting it was actually there or he just got the footage later.
Right.
But you could see him kind of get his finger caught. And I'm thinking that's maybe when he heard it. So he's actually, again, I don't know if he broke the finger. But there's a picture of his finger stitched up on this side. So really got.
Oh, he might have tore the ligaments.
I don't know the
if
details.
It's the way
but
you were pointing, it's backwards and hyperextended.
I don't know if it
backwards.
hyperextended. I'm just saying you could see there's stitches
That
on the
could be
outside.
bad, yeah.
So anyway, let's also shout out John Way Martial Arts in Plantation, Florida. JohnWayMartialArts.com and John Way Martial Arts on Instagram. Our individual podcast patrons include Jebediah Barra, Robert Walker, Frank House, Boa Athletics. You can check them out at Boa_Athletics, BOA_Athletics on IG. Jason Smiley, CJ Carroll, Mission 22, Chuck Reddoor, and Roberto Santiago. If you'd like to support the show, visit patreon.com/Jiu-Jitsu Dummies. Join and be automatically entered every single month into our monthly giveaways to win up to or at least $100 in jiu-jitsu swag. So what's jiu-jitsu swag? It's either podcast tees, CBD from Fight Back. Sometimes we have a sponsor come in with a gi or two that we'll award. If you are a listener who sent a question that we use on the show, you're automatically entered into that drawing as well. So sometimes it's somebody just from Patreon, and sometimes it's somebody who sent the question.
Right.
So I usually post and congratulate them. So just keep an eye out for that stuff, guys. But again, patreon.com/Jiu-Jitsu Dummies, and we appreciate all the support.
Special thanks to Fightback CBD. Go to fightbackcbd.com and check out their growing line of CBD products. Find the best solution for your CBD needs and use code JJD to get 20% off your next purchase. Visit them on Instagram too at FightbackCBD. Special thanks to George Hernandez, Claims Adjuster. Have you experienced damage to your residential or commercial property in the state of Florida from flood or fire, storms, theft and vandalism, even sinkholes, just to name a few? Don't get stressed out dealing with your insurance provider. Call George Hernandez today and let the professionals get you the most compensation possible. Visit hernandezclaims.com or call 305-712-6751 to get help now. And stay in touch with them on Instagram at Hernandez Claims.
All right, guys, at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies for all the ways to watch, listen, and support. You can donate to our scholarship program where we award one-year scholarships to veterans, first responders, and amazing kids. Now, remember, we did it with the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Foundation, but we closed that so that we can just do them under the podcast. Makes things a lot easier.
Yep.
If you want to donate to help us, award the next scholarship, again, click on the link on our Instagram page, on the Linktree link, and you can see all the ways that you can donate. We've got you can Venmo us, or you can donate through GoFundMe. And while we're talking about GoFundMe, let me throw that out there again about John, my old training partner, John Carlos. We've got his GoFundMe at the very top of that link tree. Please, if you donate, if you can. If you can't donate, please grab that link and share it. Share it with the jiu-jitsu community. Put it on your favorite jiu-jitsu page. He really can use the help. I'm telling you, I would not be talking about him or mentioning it if he wasn't an awesome guy who's just going to be, obviously, right, cancer. I mean, I don't want to say falling on hard times.
Yeah.
This is really crappy shit
Yeah.
deal. He is an amazing guy. And he is just trying to do the right thing for his family. And I know it's not easy for someone to come out and ask for help, but he, for him to come out and ask people to help him, that took a lot of courage. I know that that's not easy. So, at very least, please pull that link, share it where you can, and again, we appreciate it if you donate. If you donate over $100 or better, let me know. Send me the receipt, take a snapshot of it on your phone, and I'll send you out a podcast mug for helping. So thank you, guys.
Cool beans.
All right. I'm at Uncle Milty BJJ on Instagram.
I'm bad words.
Do you remember?
I don't know.
We're both like, what's my Instagram? We're getting old.
Some days I do. Some days it's Badworks. BADWERKS on IG.
And Miguel? Oh, Miguel's not here.
Wait, it's the tiny little boy said hi.
He's jumping up trying to reach the mic.
Hi, JJD.
Hopefully Miguel will be back next week, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening. Stay safe. Peace, love, and jiu-jitsu, baby. Loose.